Today's episode of the Apter Chat is brought to you by Blue Chew.
May I try that, please? I'm here for the audition. My name is Lou.
Hello, Lou.
Lou Chew, actually. I'm part of the Blue Chew crew.
So, Lou, you began this by asking for...
The announcer position.
Oh.
I understand that you every week do the Blue Chew commercial, and I saw that they were auditioning for a Blue Chew commercial talent. I'm with the Blue Chew crew, so get Blue Chew today. How was that?
That was okay, but I think what we're missing is some of the meat of the Blue Chew, if you will. For instance, you can go to bluechew.com, and Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, which is how you know they work. And Lou, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your experience with them. So obviously you went to bluechew.com, you used the promo code BILL, and you got your first shipment absolutely free. You just had to pay $5 shipping, and you got it absolutely
Well, that's
free.
one of the reasons I'm here to audition, because I want to make sure that I have all the rules down. But Blue Chew is for me. Blue Chew is for you. My name is Lou, and I use Blue Chew too. I think that's a very admirable audition.
I'll tell you what, Lou, how about you come back and maybe try to read for one of our other sponsors later on in the show?
Should I call you?
No, I should definitely call you. And you know what you should do? You should go to bluechew.com. Now, I think it's important that we kind of get down to the nitty-gritty here to help you get down to the nitty-gritty. You can take Blue Chew anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever an opportunity arises.
I'm ready. The opportunity to audition.
You want to come back for the later one. We have a different sponsor. You're going to want to come back for them. This is Blue Chew. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visits, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. Again, that's BLUE Chew.com, promo code BILL to try it free.
Blue Chew, it's for me, it's for you. My name is Lou, signing off.
Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the Apter Chat. Welcome to the Apter Chat. I'm Josh Shernoff, and I am joined, as always, by the one, the only, Bill Apter.
Well, thank you. I'm great, and it's October.
It is.
Not only is it the month of my birthday,
Yeah.
October 22nd, you people who want to send dark chocolate, or if you're in Europe, Roundtree fruit gums, we'll give them an address later. They can't send it through email, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
that would be tough.
actually, where are we going to have them send it to?
Well, you know what? I'll just tweet out your home address.
You know what? I wouldn't mind, but I think my wife might object to
Yeah.
that. And I don't have a P.O. box, so they can keep it until I see them at a convention.
Maybe they can tweet out their home address, and you can just show up and accept their
What
candy.
a great idea. If any of you live locally in the Philadelphia area and you'd like to...
I have a perfect day this month, Bill.
When?
How about October 31st? You can go ring their doorbell, and you can ask for candy.
Wow, that would be wonderful.
That's just right off the top of my head.
So
I just came up with that.
You went out, when you were growing up, you dressed up as Sting. It's been all over the place.
I did, yeah. It was.
So
it was
who should I
posted
dress
on,
up as? Me?
You should dress up as you. Yeah.
Oh, all right, I'm going to have to get makeup and stuff. No, but October 22nd is my birthday this year,
Yes.
and I'm not going to say how young I am. It doesn't matter because
Do you know when my birthday was?
last week
Last week.
it
yeah.
was, yes, and you turned
Older
yeah.
than I was the day before.
Yeah, and you had several phone calls from me on your birthday.
I did.
Several different. I think Tex from our Blue Chew crew.
Tex,
Dr. Blue Chew. Who,
Dr.
by the,
Chew. He was. I heard that he was deported.
No.
Back to parts unknown.
Well, they threw him off the boat. Actually, he's no longer in existence.
Okay, that's
but
questionable.
happy birthday.
Thank you,
Josh,
and happy birthday month to you. Not only happy birthday month, this is a different celebratory month. This is your book-iversary.
It is. Yes, my book is Wrestling Fix.
I didn't know it was broken.
I know you didn't. This month, October, marks the 3rd year that book is out there in the bookstores and Amazon and every place else you can get a book. And I want to thank all the people. All over the world for the great things that they've said about the book, and it's still available on Amazon and in the bookstores.
We made it easy. You can go to theapterchat.com. There's a picture of the book. Click on it. Boom, right there to the Amazon.
And and if you want it signed after you buy the book, if you send me a picture of you with the book, I'll give you my email address. It's bapter@onewrestling.com. All you need to do is send me your home address, send a picture of you with the book, and I will send you a personalized autograph sticker to put on the opening page.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you can't get to me for one of my book signings, you know how I found out how to do that?
How?
You might be too young for this. Do you remember the Mike Douglas show?
I know of the Mike Douglas show.
It was a talk show and a variety show. Similar, it was an afternoon-based Tonight Show, so to say, with Mike Douglas as the host. And his producer said to me one time he liked the book autographed. His producer is several years older now, of course. He's still around. And I said, well, send me the book. He said, no, why don't you do this one? Mike used to do records or books. He used to sign stickers and mail them to the people to put up on the record or on the
That's a great
book.
idea.
So that's what I've been doing. So
you
can get you can share my book anniversary if you'd like an autograph, and I'll stick it to you.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to we'll be celebrating all month here at the Apter Chat for the Is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken.
Book,
and
I've
so
got it right in my
later on,
hand.
So open it up to a particular page. First page you come to.
First page you come to.
What's the first?
Punk fan booted from Sunnyside Arena.
Okay, read the first paragraph.
In my teen years, I lived in Maspeth, Queens, New York. My local arena was in a section of the borough called Sunnyside Garden.
Okay, so the story behind this, and you can read the full story, of course, in the book, is Mark Lewin and Don Curtis were the premier good guy, not babyface, I don't say that, it's still old school, the premier good guy team everywhere, and they had turned bad guys. And there was a fan 2 days before that on TV from Bridgeport, Connecticut, that had a sign that he was holding by the ring that said, "You were a bum." And Lewin and Curtis went crazy, and they had him thrown out of the building. So several nights later, I was at Sunnyside Garden, and I had made a poster, "You are a bum." My father said, "What's the poster you have under your arm?" "Oh, nothing, just some..." So we get into Sunnyside Garden, which it was illegal for me to be in there because in New York State they had a restriction where if you were 13 years old or younger, you couldn't go to pro wrestling or boxing. It was considered dangerous because there were riots at the Garden and all this stuff at Madison Square Garden.
Right.
So Lewin and Curtis come to the ring. The State Athletic Commissioner, who was a friend of my father's, put us in the high balcony and just said, "You can stay here, just don't let anybody know you're here and you're under 13. Lewin and Curtis head to the ring. I told my father, "I'll be right back." I take the poster, run down to the ring. "You're a bum." Don Curtis says, "Who are you?" And this is with 1,200 fans there.
Right.
And I said, "You're a bum." And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, 12. He said, "Get him out of here." And security came over to me, and they started. And my father came down. "What did you do? You embarrassed us and everything." But I was a Punk fan, and I was at Sunnyside Garden, and they got me thrown out because of that sign. So it's stories like that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, hey, and congratulations again on the book. Someone, there's a picture on the front cover of you and Triple H, but there's a picture all over social media this week of Triple H holding your book.
I emailed him. That picture was taken several years ago, and I didn't take the photo.
I could tell that it was old because he didn't have his big beard.
Right.
And he's had that for the last couple of years.
It wasn't the time of the beard, right? No. However, that picture, he had gotten the book. I had sent him a copy, and he's, one of the things people don't talk about with him is he's an old school guy in a new school world, and I feel he balances that so very well. But I sent him a copy of the book, and I did not expect that picture to come to me, and he sent it, and I always held it for the past year or two in my private collection, and I emailed him last week, and I said, would you mind? He said, of course, go ahead and, show it to everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, obviously they call him the Game, and that came from him being the student of the Game, and he is always...
Who was he a student of? Whose school did he go to? And China went there, too.
Oh, well, he went to Killer Kowalski's school, yes. But
what was Killer Kowalski's first name?
Walter.
No, actually, that's the Americanized name of it. It was really Wladek, W-L-A-D-E-K, Wladek. But nobody here can pronounce it.
I get some points for,
that's
for
good.
trivia here, right?
You definitely do. I'm going to hit you with one of those old school things every week now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I'm not going to do as well as.
Well, wait a minute. If you fans have a trivia question you want me to stump young Josh with here, young Josh, where should they send the? And you can't peek at it either, so you can't research it.
Then they should send it right to your Twitter.
They could do that at Apter One Wrestling.
At Apter One Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. So Josh won't see it.
So go right to you because I do peek
on
the Apter Chat Twitter.
All right.
At the Apter Chat.
By the way, I thought that that Lou Chu guy was really talented. We're going to bring him back later, you said?
Yeah, he's going to come back and audition again for
another one of our sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd give him the job. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
So right now, there's so much going on in the world of pro wrestling, sports entertainment. I think it's time to get that grip going.
Let's do it.
Headlock on Headlines.
All right. Well, the ratings dropped again for Monday Night Raw. And this past Monday was officially the lowest rated Monday Night Raw in the history of the entire program. And we talked last week about how you can't really, I mean, it's a little too quick to judge some of the numbers. But they drew a 2.302 million viewers.
That's I wish we had
I know, right?
that amount of people listening to this.
Seriously. This is down from last week's 2.35. So yeah, it's down. It's a new. I'm reading some directly from Wrestling Inc., which, by the way, I'd like to thank Wrestling Inc. for covering our show.
Yes, Raj, thank you so very much. And by the way, Nick Hausman.
Yeah, just started there.
He used to be at WrestleZone, and he's now
so
at
congratulations
my
on your new
former
job,
podcast partner.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nick, for moving on to something else so that I could move in here. And
tell him about that podcast death match.
Oh, that he and I had?
Yes.
Yeah, but then we just decided to call it a draw.
Okay, all right.
He moved on.
And you won me.
Yeah, yeah. Who won and who lost? You guys, you guys decided.
By the way, wait a minute.
Yes.
I want to interject something here.
Okay.
There are comments that we've gotten, and it's okay, that people think at times, like just now, that you might be disrespectful to me. Josh and I have a very good time doing this, and I've known Josh. He's just turned 35.
Yeah.
And I've known Josh since he was 9 years old. We've been friends and family friends for more years than most marriages last. But I want you to address to the people, we'll give this as a headline, Shernoff disrespectful to Apter, but I want you to address what this is really all about.
Yeah, so I mean,
because I never felt disrespect from you.
Well, I'm glad. So look, we have fun on the show, and I base it from everybody has their own style and their own type of comedy. I have sarcasm. It's kind of all I have.
And I don't like sarcasm.
No, and that's kind of. I remember on my first date with my wife, I said to her,
"Wait a minute! You took your first date with your wife. You were married on a first date? That's incredible."
See, and it's things like that make it tough for me
ahead.
to say. No, so, but on the first, I said to her, when we were talking, you're kind of doing so tell me this about you. And I said to her right off the bat, I said, I have been told that sometimes my tone of voice can come off condescending.
Cocky.
Yeah, and it's just my tone of voice. And people who actually know me know they can tell when I'm intending to be condescending or cocky. But as it relates to you, I've gotten a little bit of that hate mail, and and feel free to always send your hate tweets to @SoSaysShernoff. Do me a favor though, if you do, make them accurate. Somebody sent me something recently, coming down on me for coming up with 2 questions. One of them was a question you asked that I didn't even ask, and another one was a question that I said, but it was a fan question. So, it's
you
like
took the heat.
It's fine. Yeah, I can take the heat, but try and at least come down on me for something that I've actually done.
What I'm driving at here is that I have never felt a sense of disrespect from you.
And I think, we try to just have fun and we joke around on here. Kind of has that
It's
morning
old
that
school
morning
and new
show.
school.
And it's we'll have a difference of opinions, but nobody had any of the people writing in who think that they have respect for you. The respect they have for you pales in comparison to the respect that I have for you. I've gone on record in the past. Every single thing that I have in this business is thanks to you, including, and most recently, this show.
Yes.
So, guys, we're having fun. We're joking around. Don't take it so seriously.
I think the one line that you did that somebody got ticked off at was that you said to me, we both have our right to our own opinions, but yours is right.
Now,
so I think that...
Are you sure that's not the one that you got ticked off?
I think so. I think so. But yeah, I just want to let you know that Josh wouldn't be in this spot unless I felt a sense of his appreciation for who I am and where I came from.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that and bringing this up, and and it wasn't necessary, but I do appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad since you said that I have a couple of words to tell you.
You're fired. All right. And one other person did say something that kind of stuck with me, just because of the way that they said it.
This wasn't my wife, was it?
No,
Okay.
They said that. No, but she did ask me to keep you here for longer.
Yes,
if I could.
wonder why.
That
That plumber keeps coming over the house now. I swear that leak is fixed.
All right, I'm not the one who went there. I just want that to be on the record. No, somebody had said to me or someone had put in a review that I seem to hold my opinions in high regard, and I just am curious, should I hold my opinions in anything but high regard? They're my opinions. They might be totally objectively wrong, but they're my opinions. If they're my honest opinion, aren't I going to hold them in high regard? Also, sometimes people, forget that I have been in this business for about 20 years. I did wrestle for 10 of those years. And, so when I am saying things, Bill and I are coming for, obviously I don't have the years of experience that you have. But you and I do have experience in different facets of the industry.
Absolutely.
And we come from different generations. More importantly, as fans, we grew up in different times in the wrestling business.
Absolutely.
So I like to think that we are having friendly debates and we're coming at this stuff as to, if I can say, peers in the business, even though obviously I look up to you in the business and you've been in it so much longer than
I don't
have.
look down to you. So
I'm a little bit taller.
All right.
But let's continue on with
now, by the way,
Headlock
one
on
other thing
Headlines.
I do want to mention that several people, 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that I was having Fruit Adventure Tic Tacs.
Yes.
And they wanted to know what the treat of the week is. So I have here a bag of Tom Sturgis Artisan Little Ones. They're pretzels, and
that's a sound that
these are really. This has become my favorite pretzel. Tom Sturgis Artisan Little Ones. They're like those little 3-ring pretzels.
And I think the sound of you eating it has become the favorite thing for Apter chatters to listen to on their way to work.
What does it? Since we have the sponsor Blue Chew, when you take Blue Chew, does that crackle like that?
We'll have to ask someone who's taken Blue Chew.
All right, let's get back.
All right, yeah. So back to this.
We're
But
talking
thank
about
you
the raw
again
ratings.
for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
I want to bring this up, and this is not me protecting WWE like some fans. Oh, Apter is politically correct. Yes, I am. But
You're polite.
politely, yeah, whatever.
Politely correct.
Right, politely. New word. Oh my God! But there were also, and I don't know if these were numbers of people that DVR'd the show as well. Can you?
I don't know. And just reading from the thing, I'm just seeing, these are obviously the numbers that came in overnight.
There were a lot of premieres last night. The new Magnum PI premiered last night.
Right. I have that down here. Raw was number 15 for the night in viewership on cable, behind Monday Night Football on ESPN. Monday Night Kickoff, Sports Center, Hannity, Tucker Carlson tonight.
Hannity?
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, that's upsetting to hear that Raw fell behind that.
Yeah, let's not go into this.
I'm not even getting political. I'm just saying, like,
I am. That's why I want to get off of this.
From an entertainment standpoint, you'd want to see more people tuning into Raw, but I don't think that's the same audience.
Raw has to get out of the foxhole.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see what you did there. Major League Baseball tiebreaker was at 4 p.m. I don't know what I'm reading here. Tiebreaker at 1 p.m. How did any of this have anything to do with the Raw viewership?
Yeah, but did any of the did Magnum PI or any of these other shows?
Yeah, so we had Magnum PI, we had the premiere of a show called The Neighborhood, Dancing with the Stars,
that's
The Voice,
big. That's very
The
big.
Resident, Penn and Teller. So there was a lot. There was a lot on TV at the 8 o'clock. That was all, I believe, at the 8 o'clock hour. So, I mean, look, it's you don't like to see this. It's tough to kind of.
Yeah, but there's still millions of people watching it.
Yes, but if it's dropping every, eventually, how low is it going to go? And there have been people. So we were tagged on Twitter about somebody kind of saying, "Hey, we should all stop watching."
That's someone's. I saw that. That's someone's opinion. They're entitled to their opinion.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry. I've been watching for 30 years.
Turn it
I'm
off
not gonna.
If you don't like it,
yeah, I'm
turn
not
it
gonna
off.
stop watching, no matter how much I don't enjoy it.
Wait. Go back. How much
that?
you don't enjoy it?
No matter how much I don't enjoy an episode, I'm not gonna stop watching it. And I think that maybe I should. Maybe that would make them realize that people aren't enjoying it more.
In those
but
high numbers, it's very hard to say people aren't enjoying it. I think they go away from it just to look at other things. You know what the best?
But they know if back in February they're averaging a million more viewers a week than they had the last 2 weeks. I mean they're big numbers, but that's a million.
But new
less
shows
people.
a lot of new shows have started.
Yeah, but it's a million.
Well, I'll tell you what
a million less people.
I think I know one of the things that they need to move away from, and I'm not. Again, I'm not a booker, I'm not a writer for the WWE, but I think every week, and I know my son has spoken to me about this, every week for the past long time, they're promoting the Australian show and everything going toward the Australian show.
Do you think that people don't care because of, it's airing at 5 o'clock in the morning?
No, I don't think that's the end result. It's just that the situation's being built for that particular show is becoming repetitious.
Right. Maybe they're not, fans today are not used to the long build. Say back
This
in
is
the day
a very
when they had the big four.
Yeah.
And that was it. Mm-hmm. We were used to a long build.
But not,
to pay-per-views,
this seems to be even longer. And to address your other question, I'll be up at 5 a.m. watching this, and I think most fans that are WWE fans are going to do the same thing. They'll probably repeat it right afterwards. One of the things that I took away from Monday Night Raw, there was this incredible shot by one of the cameramen who, when Undertaker and Kane started to walk up the ramp and they turned half face.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And the moon was out there.
And it was kind of one of the most, there was depth to it with Kane being behind him. Yeah.
One of the most classic camera moments I've ever seen.
That was a good. You're going to see that again in future video packages and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you.
What did you think about the Brothers of Destruction destroying Shawn Michaels and Triple H? I mean, I was like, really?
Look, it's kind of that. it almost, I guess, put them as who's the face, who's the heel in this?
No, I'm not even thinking that. I'm just thinking that
Well, you had to.
to
You had
compel
to look
you,
at
no,
that.
to compel you to see this, it should have been a little more equal
Mm-hmm.
than it was, because now it's like, well, these guys are going to get killed by the Undertaker and Kane.
Or is it, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to have to step it up to beat them? So, but I think the
Sports
biggest
questions.
thing, I think the biggest thing to come out of that entire segment, according to the internet, was Shawn Michaels' lack of hair. He is completely shaved, bicked, bald.
Well, we don't know why exactly he has shaved his head, or
Well, I think we do.
why do you think he did this?
He's been balding for about 10 years.
Well, I've been balding for about 40, and I
Not
still
everybody
have my,
has the comb over, though.
That's right.
And by the way, if you want to respect the comb over, go to the afterchat.com, click on the merch link, and you can get the T-shirt. Our #1 selling T-shirt, Respect the Comb Over. You can also check out the Championship Office Wrestling belt.
Yes, and the
T-shirt.
Is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken
Yeah.
T-shirt. And then, of course, the After Chat logo if you just want to represent as an After Chatter. But yeah, Shawn Michaels, totally bald. Is this to match Triple H? Is this
Maybe, because maybe they're going to have like the DX outfits on,
Yeah.
and both of them.
So
it might have been for Triple H to grow hair. Might have taken longer than Shawn to shave his.
Here's the funny thing, though. I think Triple H has a full head of hair. I
On
think
his chin.
No. No, I think he shaves his head down, but
I know.
I don't think he was ever going bald.
No,
I
he
think
wasn't.
it's just a look.
Yeah.
And
Because
Shawn
he's
Michaels
cerebral.
is going to take,
He's a cerebral assassin.
As he got older, he needed to get the hair out of the way.
he wanted
so he could be
exactly
a little more cerebral.
and for people to see the brain.
What are we even talking about? Obviously they're leading towards a tag match at the show in Saudi Arabia. That's the rumor going around. I think it's pretty well established that it's going to be the Brothers of Destruction versus DX.
The other, about the other rumor going around.
What's that?
Well, what you gonna do, brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I called him today. I haven't heard back from him yet,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping to find out.
Are we gonna break the surprise on the After Chat?
We might break it in a special After Chat if he decides to reveal it, but he might be under a code of silence not to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To us or to
No, to anybody at this point until the WWE breaks that.
Yeah. But I think there's a good chance that he'll be back there. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Elias.
Hey. I like your segue.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about Elias. That's my radio voice. Do you like that?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I'll never do it again, I promise. So Elias kind of threw a little cheap heat out there on Monday Night Raw.
That wasn't cheap. That was smart.
Oh
heat.
no. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term. That's cheap heat is it's like a cheap pop. If you go at like Mick Foley's cheap pop that he does all the time.
I used to
right
call my
here
father that when he wouldn't part with money to give me something that I wanted to buy. But go ahead.
Man. So he made mention of the city's basketball team, which I believe left in 2010, and how it wouldn't make any sense for them to, have a. I hear you chewing.
Tom Sturgis, go ahead.
So I don't know why that.
Focus, Josh.
I don't know why that got me so much. So now that you've announced, do we not have to edit out the sound of you chewing? In the background, now that we're like announcing?
Okay. Yeah, I hope.
All right, good.
I hope you wouldn't.
Oh no, of course not. So Elias made the comment about the city no longer having a basketball team, and that cheap heat, which is usually good for a couple of boos, turned into what seemed like 10 minutes, probably closer to 5 minutes though, where Kevin Owens and Elias, they just kind of started having to yell over the crowd. It was so loud that they actually even turned up the lights slightly on the audience, which Elias then said, turn the lights back down. I don't want to see these people.
The audience was hostile.
But they didn't. But they turned the lights up, and I could, hear in my head Vince McMahon back there or somebody, Kevin Dunn or somebody saying, get the lights up on this crowd. We want to see this. It reminded me, and I was really curious your opinion on it, because it reminded me of, I hate to use the term back in the day.
No, but it was an Attitude Era reaction.
It was so loud. And one of my critiques of the WWE as of late has been how quiet it was. Even this past January when I went to a show in Philadelphia, and I think it was fifth row at SmackDown. And I just stand there. I was just like, it's just quiet.
Yeah, but no, this reaction last night was that Attitude Era reaction. That's what it was.
So this was my question for you, because I've been thinking about this since January, and I really think that I might have an idea.
Okay, so what's the question?
I think that, and I guess my question is, do you agree that it's social media that is why it's so quiet? I think people are on their phones.
No, I don't. I definitely don't. I think
I'm saying in the arena, I think people are spending time
tweeting
things
pictures,
out,
yes,
doing whatever.
Yeah. But once a wrestler says something to stir up the crowd, if it's the right thing, like last night, everybody looks up. And it used to be in every match, somebody was able to, whether it be something they said or by a move in the ring, to turn that up. But the crowds today are accustomed to not having that reaction that they had back in the Attitude Era, because this is a different and I'm going to bring this back in a way that I think everyone will understand.
Okay.
Back in the days of the Attitude Era, you wouldn't see them celebrating breast cancer and showing breast cancer survivors and showing commercials for people who have beaten breast cancer. That makes it more, when they have something like this and they're talking about wonderful things like that, a Connor's Cure, it almost makes the audience like a more docile or respectful type of audience than that killer type of audience that ECW or it's like being at a sporting event more than a pro wrestling show. You understand?
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I think that there's definitely some truth to that, at least right around those segments. But I feel like if you did a breast cancer awareness segment, the Susan G. Komen segment, and then immediately had Roman Reigns come out, I think the whole crowd would be booing like crazy doing their stuff. So,
you know what? I agree with you.
Yeah, so I think you're right. But I think that speaks more to overall how everything is just kind of, the whole tone has changed of this.
So let's go one step
company.
further. Let's go one step further. Perhaps because they're a publicly traded company, that they're more in line with being an entertainment pro wrestling company than getting people so hostile with things that they've been doing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that they're, that might be from the company's standpoint. I think it's the crowd. I think it's just a commentary on the audience. And I think, and After Chatters, let us know what you think, but I think it's social media. I know when I was there and we had some signs that we were holding up and we were doing things like that, and I was getting text messages from people who were seeing the signs. So during the show, I'm on my phone.
You might have a very good point here.
I'm looking at my phone. I'm texting someone. I'm doing things that wasn't there back
So do you
in the
think
day.
WWE should ban cell phones?
Well, no, they wouldn't want to do that because all they want is want the social media. So, but I do think it affects. I think people just aren't paying attention.
So is the social media more important than what's going on in the ring? I'm at a WWE show. To the fans, I'm at a WWE show. Look how close I'm sitting. Text.
Should it be? No. Is it? Yes.
Is it? You
I
think
think
so?
it is. I think it absolutely is. Because I think it's I mean, this is what social media is. Everybody's, putting themselves over. They want an opportunity.
This is a great point. I never would have thought of this. That's a great point.
Thank you. I just think that people are so focused on tweeting about it or texting about it or taking pictures and then looking right at the pictures to see. Because, I mean, you remember this, and obviously you were at ringside, but for me as a fan, back in the Attitude Era, I could take a bunch of pictures, but it was at best going to be a 1-hour photo the next day when I got home.
Yeah, here you can see it instantly.
Instantly,
Sure.
people are taking pictures. What's the first thing they're doing?
Right.
Oh, let me see how that picture turned out.
Right.
And then they're showing their buddy, hey, check out this picture. Look how good that was.
Hey, why don't you send this to your grandfather?
And you know what? And in that time, that all they did was look at a picture, show it to their buddy next to them. They may have missed 3 spots in the match. And they could have been important parts of the story, and that takes them out of the story.
And you
that the
see, in
wrestlers
an
are telling.
arena like this, you can do that because it's not distracting to people. If you did that at a concert, people might get annoyed. They do it at concerts, but people might get annoyed. Hey, we can't see because you got the your camera up, your cell phone up.
Well, I remember I had people getting annoyed at me because we were holding signs. And I'm like, in the Attitude Era, everyone had 10 signs there. You couldn't see. You went to the show for your signs to be out there.
What did your sign say?
One said, "Hi, Fred," to my brother. A couple of them were actually shout-outs to Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard.
This is pre-Apter Chat.
This is pre-Apter Chat. This is if it was now, it would only be Apter Chat things. One said book Dave Sagan, who we had on the Apter Chat last week. They were all, but so they were only, it was only like 8 months ago, but really dated at this point. I guess 9 months. 9 months ago.
Well, whatever.
Jeez, this year has flown by.
But the audience went crazy over what Elias did, and let's as we keep watching the product, not the product, Dave Sagan, of course.
He's the solution.
The solution, not the product. But I got my product and my solution a little bit mixed up there.
Maybe
but we got Dave
the product.
Sagan's name in there, didn't we?
We got it. That's
yes.
it. 2 weeks in a row.
But I think to get
3 weeks
to get a reaction like that was absolutely great. But are they going to capitalize on this? Because they do this in a lot of towns. Mm-hmm. They'll go into Philadelphia.
I think they just struck a nerve. They just really struck a nerve. One thing I wanted to ask you about Monday Night Raw was, so I'm watching this and I'm seeing it was supposed to be a Universal title match. Roman Reigns defending the title against Dolph Ziggler, right? Baron Corbin comes out. This is not going to be for the title. You're not defending that title until the Saudi Arabia show and the triple threat match and everything.
And you thought Roman was going to lose, period, at the end, right?
I thought common sense would say, obviously they're going to have Dolph go over on him, so they
meaning Dolph was going to pin
Dolph
Roman
was going to beat Roman Reigns, so this was their way of doing it. And if that was the mindset, I still would have said that's stupid. Why would the heel general manager, who is doing everything in his power in the earlier segment to stack the odds against the faces, why would he now come out and stack and remove one of those odds?
Well, I can tell you why, because if I was Stephanie McMahon, who was running this, I would have said that I want to ensure that he's going to have that title by the time we get to that show, and to make sure that that is a title match, that they have promised a title match at Saudi Arabia.
Right. But if we're looking at this from a Sports Illustrated standpoint, if we're looking at this from and that's how I want to...
Or a Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated. That's how I want to look at this for just a second.
Right.
If I'm looking at it that way, common sense would say, if Roman Reigns loses the title to Dolph Ziggler, that main event now becomes Dolph Ziggler versus Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar, right?
Correct.
It just didn't make any sense to have the guy who's supposed to be, like I said, stacking the odds against the face, coming out there and basically saying, okay, Roman Reigns, you're at no risk of losing your championship. Go have fun. It also made the audience now, to me, I looked at it and said, okay, well then I really don't care. What's going to happen in this match? Why do I care? Could be a good match, but there are no stakes. You've taken the stakes away. And if you're telling a story, there is nothing more important than having stakes. If it's a scene as an actor, if I can tell you from my experience as an actor, one of the things that you look at when you're first looking at a scene, the number one thing you're going to look at is what are the stakes? What are my stakes in this? Because that is what's going to translate to the audience. That's the emotion that's going to translate to the audience.
Well, I felt, like I said, in a PWI type of vein, that there's no title on the line because the champion has to put up the title in Saudi Arabia, but wait, let me finish. But the champion that they're looking for in Saudi Arabia, the match that was signed was a championship match of Roman Reigns against Braun
Strowman and Brock Lesnar.
Exactly.
But so and this is where I think it's kind of, lazy booking. Because
wait a minute, are we talking Saudi Arabia?
Yes, we're talking Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
This is where I think it's lazy booking. Because all you had to do is actually just come out and say...
Don't say lazy booking, because again, you don't know what they have in mind. It's not lazy. They probably
I don't think that this had anything...
That's the wrong word, lazy booking.
You know why I say lazy booking?
No, why, Josh?
Because when I say lazy booking, what I mean is they booked something without stopping and saying, okay, let's dissect what we just came up with.
Knowing what they do, and especially with Triple H's approval and Vince's approval, there's a reason for them doing what they did on Monday night.
I would like to know what the reason was.
I don't know.
Because the biggest point of all is the fact that Roman Reigns beat him clean. So why was that even necessary? Instead, they knew he wasn't going to lose the title. He was going to beat Dolph Ziggler clean in the middle of the ring. That was it. There was no interference, no anything.
Right, but if they put the title on the line, and by some reason somebody changed something, and Dolph Ziggler was now the champion, triple threat match doesn't make sense.
No, but they weren't going to change something in the middle. And I think that
I'm trying to get out of this, ladies and gentlemen, because what Josh is saying is lazy booking. I'm just saying that however they booked this,
I won't say
Monday
lazy,
night,
nonsensical booking
in your mind, but however they booked it, I know the WWE people, and there's always a reason for why that happened.
Well, this is my opinion, and I hold my opinion in high regard. So,
how disrespectful!
Oh man! Hey, you want to do some quick pick'ems?
Yes, are you going to get up at 5 a.m. and watch the show?
I'm probably going to get up at 5 a.m. to when my daughter wakes up, and depending on how late I went to bed the night before, I might just stay up and start watching it. But I would then have to go downstairs to watch it because she will come into our room and take over the television.
What will she watch?
She is really into Paw Patrol right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really into Paw Patrol.
Good show. So, yes, let's go to the Apter Chat Quick'em Pick'em.
Quick'em Pick'em. Becky Lynch is the SmackDown Women's Champion, and she will be defending against Charlotte Flair.
I see Becky Lynch retaining the title.
I agree. All right, moving on.
We agreed.
Yes. Asuka and Naomi versus the Iconics. It's Billie Kay and Peyton Royce in a tag team match.
I think they're trying to move the Iconics a step higher, so I'm gonna go with them.
I agree again.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 for 2.
For the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship, The New Day, Big E, Kofi Kingston, and or Xavier Woods. We don't know which two.
You said Xavier? See, I say Xavier.
Xavier?
I say Xavier.
You say Xavier?
Yeah.
I say Xavier. Okay. I put an emphasis on
the
X.
Is it Xfinity
or Xavier?
Xfinity? Go ahead.
They face Cesaro and Sheamus, the Bar, for the championship.
Well, I think, and I mentioned this on the last pay-per-view, that the New Day's time is, I don't know, I think it's up, and I think people want to see Cesaro and Sheamus as champions again. I think they like the way the two of them are together, and they're really good tag teams. It's a great team that I think they're going to win.
What did you think of? Did you see at an NXT show? Cesaro made he ran out to make a save for his old tag team partner.
Yeah.
Chris Hero.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Cassius Ohno.
Yes, that was very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
A lot of people were like, hey, where's Sheamus?
Yeah, well, maybe this will become a a point of maybe Cassius Ohno will show up there, and maybe there'll be some interplay that could cost them the match. So I'm changing it to the New Day now that you brought that up.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but
we
but
don't know.
But
They
I
made
think
that very public.
Yeah, I
They
think
really
the New Day.
They moved that on the WWE website.
That's
That was
true.
a big item. So
I do think the New Day will be victorious. I don't think Cassius Ohno is going to be there, but I do think the New Day will retain the championship. Speaking of championships, Bill, Cedric
yeah.
Cedric the Entertainer is what I was about to say, because I watched The Neighborhood last night.
Yes,
Did you see it?
No, part of it. It was good.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think
It
it's
was
going to
okay.
last in my rotation. I love
Anyway, but wait,
Schmidt
back-
from New Girl.
Back to, we got to focus on our wrestling here.
Okay, I thought the show was going to be about
Cedric
television,
the
Monday Night
Entertainer.
Television.
Yes.
Which reminds me, I see you're wearing a hat. This is Darius Rucker
Yes.
on it.
Yes. It's a baseball cap that he gave me.
Yes. My brother just went to one of his shows in Florida over this past weekend and absolutely loved it. And I think I'd really like to see about having Darius Rucker on the show.
Well, you do know that if you go to YouTube and put in Bill Apter interviews Darius Rucker, not only did we do Dusty Rhodes imitations together, but we also did a duet on a Barry Manilow song.
But I'd like people to go to the After Chat YouTube and see the brand new episode of us having Darius Rucker on as a guest. We should definitely reach out to him. I'm sure he listens to the.
What other
show.
celebrities would you Apter Chatters like us to reach out to who follow pro wrestling?
That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah. Send that over to at the After Chat. Moving forward, Cedric Alexander. I almost said it again.
You did. Let's get to this match.
Cedric Alexander, he is the Cruiserweight champion. He will be facing Buddy Murphy. Who do you have for this?
Cedric Alexander will.
Cedric
the entertaining Alexander will defend the title successfully.
I agree.
Okay.
Have we agreed on everything?
Just about.
I think
Did
so.
you pick the
'Cause
New Day?
You switched to New Day, so I think we have agreed on everything so far.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. No count out, no disqualification match for the WWE Championship champion AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Is it Samoa Joe's time?
It is.
Yeah?
I thought it was the last time, but it's his time this time. Samoa Joe will win the title.
I
You
agree.
can't change my mind.
I agree.
Okay, really? Okay,
I think he's going
great.
to. I think he's going to because I think he's going to become a transitional champion. I think that
I think he would be a good long-term champion.
Here's what I would
Well, wait,
like to
I'll
see.
tell you what. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you know what? Another match on here is Daniel Bryan versus The Miz to determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship. Who do you think's going to win that one? That'll bring back to what I was about to talk about.
The Miz.
I agree.
Yeah.
Again, man.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd like to see. I want to see The Miz become the WWE champion, and I want to see Daniel Bryan. No, can you tell us what you're drinking?
Sparkling ice, orange mango.
Okay. This is great. I'm enjoying this. So I want to see The Miz become WWE champion, and I want to see him then eventually lose that championship to Daniel Bryan. I think Daniel Bryan is eventually going to get back to the top, and who better for him to beat for the title than The Miz
I agree
continuing
with you,
this.
100%.
Which is why, now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm going back. I think AJ Styles is going to win because I think The Miz is going to beat. I think AJ Styles is going to beat Samoa Joe. I think The Miz is going to face AJ Styles. Samoa Joe continuing the feud with AJ Styles is going to cost AJ Styles the match and championship to The Miz, who will then go on to lose it to Daniel Bryan.
I wish I followed that, but you've got a good you got a good point there. But no, I'm sticking with The Miz.
Okay, so we agree. No. We agree with The Miz, but are you sticking with Samoa Joe?
Yes.
I'm
absolutely.
changing mine to AJ Styles.
No, I'm sticking with Samoa Joe.
The Bella twins, Brie Bella and Nikki Bella, and Ronda Rousey versus the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan.
If the Riot Squad wins and beats one of the Bella twins, this is going to start a little bit of a tension situation with Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins. This could be a very interesting situation.
So, do you think what are they booked for Evolution for that pay-per-view? Because I thought there was some sort of teaming, but now I'm thinking maybe I was misunderstanding.
Well, no. I just think that this is if the Bellas cost that team to lose, that there might be some sort of change of personality.
Maybe Nikki
Ronda
turning
Rousey,
on Ronda Rousey, or Ronda Rousey turning heel.
turning against them. Yes.
Yeah.
Not turning them on.
Hey,
Yes.
a lot of people would pay to see that. Hey, by the way, I would just like to say, as far as Brie Bella, now that a lot of people have weighed in on the yes kicks that took out Liv Morgan, after last week, when I watched it back again. I still agree with what I had said before, that I think she was focused. I saw she was looking in the corner and she kept doing the yes chant in between, and I think she took her eye off the ball. But I hope I wasn't too hard on her. Accidents happen. It like I said, I think I made it pretty clear that I didn't think this was intentional. Accidents happen, and she'll just learn from it. But I do think that Daniel Bryan put out something on Twitter about how all the times that he has accidentally injured people and done things like that.
Yeah.
That, and
people
that
are coming down on his wife.
No one's ever come down on him the way that they come down on her. And I think that that's a fair criticism to people who have been coming down on her. So I wanted to say, across the board, I think, but some people at the same time have questioned, hey, there's a difference between somebody of Daniel Bryan's skill level and somebody of Brie Bella's skill level, and maybe should she be in the position in the ring? Would Daniel Bryan, if he had the skill level of Brie Bella, would he have made it as far as he made it?
Well, possibly. We don't know.
Right. So anyway, just
next match.
Something to chew on. The Shield: Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre.
So is this where we're going to see what Dean Ambrose, where his loyalty really lies? Because I'm picking the bad guys to win this one.
Yes.
I think Ambrose is going to screw his own team.
I don't even know at this point, which I think is a good thing.
Unless it's a ruse to get the
was
information of the other.
I don't know. That
side.
promo on Raw was, I got where they were going, but it took them really.
But
too
I'm
long to
looking
get
at
there.
these sports type of look here. Is that I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't either, and I'm okay with that, because
he's got to be on the other side though to get a title.
I'm okay with not knowing, because I think that that's something that's missing from wrestling, and so that makes me now I want to. If I knew exactly where they were going to go, honestly, I wouldn't really care very much about this match, because we have seen so much of these teams against each other in the recent weeks that I don't know that I'd really care. But this has kind of piqued my interest a bit, so I like that. I'm happy.
Who's your quick pick?
Quick pick is going to be the Shield.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the bad guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley and John Cena versus Elias and Kevin Owens.
Wow. First of all, Elias and Kevin Owens are such an unusual team, but they've got so much heat on them at this point. The segments they've been doing have really riled the fans up. John Cena and Bobby Heenan and Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I don't think
let's
Bobby
not
Heenan's gonna be
let's not forget Leo Rush, who, by the way,
I'm a fan of his.
I am too, big fan of his, and he's actually been over my house years ago doing karaoke.
Really?
Yeah. He, along with Velveteen Dream and Renee Michelle, yes, one of the indie girls. But I think he's fantastic. I love his character. I don't like that they killed him off pretty much last night. To me, he's supposed to be super fast and super indestructible because of that speed. But I'm looking at Lashley and Cena to win that one. I'm
not sure.
Renee Michelle, by the way, it was.
I think that's what she said.
Yes, I thought I said Mitchell, but go ahead.
No. So I could see them winning. You know what I would like to see?
She's beautiful and talented, by the way.
Let's calm down over there.
Wrestles at Maryland Championship Wrestling. But yes, go ahead.
No, please continue about her
that's
if you have anything else to say. I think...
Look her up on your phone. Get her on the Apter chat.
Okay. So I think Bobby Lashley and John Cena. I think Elias and Kevin Owens. They don't need to win to continue the heat that they have.
Ticking people off.
Yeah. But you know what I would love to see? So I'm going to go with Lashley and Cena. But you know what I'd love to see after? I would love to see Bobby Lashley turn against John Cena.
Thank you.
I think Bobby Lashley, especially with Lio Rush as his mouthpiece, could be. I mean, he was great at being a heel in Impact. Do you remember that?
I do.
I would love to see that. I think Bobby Lashley, she's a very attractive woman. There's no question. Was she at All In or no?
No, she was not.
Who was that at All In? We talked about maybe getting on the show.
That was the winner of the Dusty Rhodes, the Dusty Rhodes Memorial, the training.
The scholarship.
Yes. That wasn't her.
Okay.
But go on.
Anyway, okay, so...
No, Bobby Lashley can't... Well, you know what? Bobby Lashley, if he turns bad guy with Lio Rush, what a team.
That's what I'm saying.
What a team.
Bobby Lashley is... There's nothing to him right now. I think... What else are
lay him out last night on Monday night?
Yeah, there's not much to him, and I think that was a perfect... What happened last night, I think, is a perfect...
Monday night.
Monday. Well, you've said last night. I've said last night. Yeah, everybody knows we record on Tuesday, so I think we've talked about that every time.
Hurry up! I've got to get home and watch SmackDown.
All right. I think maybe Bobby Lashley could turn against John Cena and say, "Hey, where were you? While you're off filming movies, I'm getting beat up by these guys, and then you pop in just to team with me."
There.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that happen. But anyway, I'm going to go with why not? I'll go with Lashley and Cena.
It was Rock and Cena.
Yeah,
if you remember. Yeah, and then Cena now has run up.
He's become. Well, he certainly has
not
become Rock.
Not as. He has not taken the world by storm like The Rock did.
No. And finally, for the WWE Super Showdown, Triple H with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels in his corner versus The Undertaker with the Mayor Kane.
Mayor Kane is going to cost his team the victory.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's not his team.
Well,
he's just in his corner.
I know, but he's going to cause a loss for the Undertaker somehow. I don't know how. Or wait, let me go the other way.
Okay.
Or Shawn Michaels is going to somehow get involved in this match, and it's going to be thrown out. And of course, we're going to go to the
Saudi
next
Arabia.
Yes, to
I'm gonna go
Saudi
with,
Arabia as a tag team match.
I think Shawn Michaels. I think Triple H is going to win. I don't think they'll throw the match out because I don't think people would be happy.
No, it might be a pull apart.
Yeah, I think Shawn Michaels is going to do something is going to get involved, and Triple H is going to win. That's what I think is going to happen.
I think it might be the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
And that is Headlock on Headlines.
Quickie pickies.
Hey, guys. Do you remember when you used to always be able to go at a moment's notice?
Hey, guy. Remember me?
Tex?
That's it. Nice to see you, Joshua.
Nice to see you, Tex. Welcome back.
Blue Chew crew.
I notice you don't have your guitar with you.
No, my guitar right now is not with me because I come here as an advocate.
You're here as an advocate?
Advocate, that's what I say. My buddy Lou Chew Goldstein.
I'm familiar with Lou Chew Goldstein.
I want to make sfor that he's going to get the job. You see, I could be an announcer, too.
See, I thought you were going to be here as an advocate for Blue Chew.
Well, I'm for that, too, for Blue Chew, but I'm an advocate for Lou, so I'm here to put in my good word as a record, because I know you need references. I know I could be, but give me that paper. Hey, guys, let's talk about sex. Good sex. How am I doing? All right? So, hey guys, now you can increase your performance and get the actual confidence in the bed just like Tex has got all the time. because I use Blue Chew too. Is it getting too good because then you're not going to hire Lou?
I think that those things are not mutually
I'll
exclusive.
keep going. Now, BlueChew.com, that's the website, brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. So, buddy, you know they work, okay? Josh, I'm not, as I said, I'm an advocate, so I'm going to leave saying give Lou the job, but you could finish this up here because I don't want to embarrass you that I'm so good with this, all right?
Oh, I appreciate that,
all
Tex.
right. I'm coming. Hold the car there. Taxi. Dang, I missed my ride.
All right. Well, while Tex tries to call an Uber, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about Blue Chew. You can take them in the day, you can take them in the night, and you can take them even for, say, an afternoon delight. And most importantly, you can take them on a full stomach. Since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. Go to BlueChew.com and get your first shipment absolutely free when you use the special promo code BUILD. Just pay $5 shipping and you get your first shipment absolutely free. I cannot stress enough.
Excuse me, your receptionist is quite hot here.
Okay, well, she is 75 years old, but I will tell her, Tex, please don't. All right, we really need to cut this off as he is, and he's popped the Blue Chew and he's now on the desk. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the Apter Chat.
You come here often, sweetheart? You know, Josh, when people ask me about the highlight of my career, it wasn't anything that I photographed in a wrestling ring. It wasn't presenting any of the year-end awards for PWI. It was being there to help put the key in the ignition that started sports entertainment, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know if I'd give that type of credit to the Apter Chat, but thank you for saying so.
In truth, beside the Apter Chat, is that, as people know, I'm the person who brought Andy Kaufman.
Yes.
He hated being called a comedian, but I brought Andy Kaufman, the entertainer, to meet Jerry the King Lawler. And that feud ignited what people credit today as being the beginning of sports entertainment.
Yeah. So you and I don't mean this as a joke, you had a hand in one of the bigger early moments of entertainment being injected into the sport and making it sports entertainment.
Well, it was probably in terms of on a national basis, worldwide basis. Yeah. It was the first.
It was the first.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't like sports entertainment, you can send your hate tweets
Thank
to.
You. No, but this was the first time a mainstream celebrity like Andy Kaufman, who was starring in the TV show Taxi, went down to Memphis, Tennessee, and got himself into a feud with Jerry the King Lawler.
Yes.
And to this day, that is considered by people that look at TV history and
television historians.
And savor what were classic moments on TV. They talk about Andy Kaufman and his feud against Jerry the King Lawler that spilled over to the David Letterman show.
Of course, yeah.
So recently we had the opportunity to talk to Jerry the King Lawler about the Andy Kaufman, the days of the Andy Kaufman feud.
Yeah.
Also about, we talked to him about the unfortunate death of his son, Brian.
Yes. And then we also had an opportunity to speak to him and his fiance about horror movies and somebody that they met who was Linda Blair. So that's a story that you definitely
and comic books too.
And we covered a lot with Jerry the King Lawler. So yeah, without any further ado, Bill, would you like to send us off into that interview?
Well, I'm not going to say without further ado because you just said that.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here's an Apter Chat with Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler, one of my closest friends in the wrestling business and personal friends as well. Welcome to the Apter Chat.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Bill. I mean, I'm so excited. You've caught me while I'm down in Florida right now, and we just got here today. And so Lauren and I and we're going to be down here for about a week or so, I think. And wouldn't you know that I looked down, and you and I had agreed that we would talk around this time, and so I told Lauren, I gotta run out to the car and talk to Bill on his podcast. So I left her in the store shopping. So I just want you to know, Bill, the longer we talk, the more money she's going to spend.
Oh, well, it's been nice having you on the After Chat, Jerry.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll see you guys later.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Now,
I told you about the time that somebody stole her credit card out of her wallet, right?
No.
I didn't. Yeah, man. I didn't even have it stopped because the thief was spending less money than she was.
By the way, we saw you, of course, at the roast of Bruce Pritchard at StarCast and All In, and there was a couple of things you said there that a lot of people who had not seen this on Fight TV, and for years people said that you like younger girls, and that's not embarrassing to you at all, is it?
Well, only when I have to drop them off at school.
Oh, that's it.
Other than
other than that, it's not embarrassing at all.
Or when I take them out to an Italian restaurant and they order paschetti.
I actually still do that. So I wanted to first of all, there are people here who don't know.
First of all, let everybody know that those were jokes that I told during the Bruce Pritchard roast. Now, come on.
Well, I will need you to do the other joke, but we'll change one word in there.
Oh my gosh!
Well, yeah, we'll make it like that thing you put in with the screwdriver instead of the F-bomb.
Okay.
But,
but
there are some people listening who might not know who Lauren is. So why don't you tell us who Lauren
is? Well, Lauren is my fiance. We've been together now for I think a little over 8 years, and we've been engaged now for a little more than a year. We almost pulled the Nikki Bella. Well, actually, we got engaged, I think a week or so after, or a week or so before John Cena and Nikki Bella, and we almost pulled the same thing not too long ago. But now everything's back on, everything's cool, and
well, that's good.
So it's all nice.
That's good because I've met her and she's terrific. Is this a competition with Cena and Bella?
No, not really.
It's not a competitive thing. So
No,
I mentioned
all.
we have a lot to talk about. One of the things, and I have to bring this up because the people listening to this will say he didn't bring this up. Of course, we want to say we're so sorry about the loss of Brian. And I knew him really, really well. I went to England with him
Sure you did.
a couple of times, and he was a great kid. So just what would you like to say at this point? Because people want to hear your feelings here.
Well, I mean, hopefully anybody doesn't have to actually know. There are probably some people out there listening that have experienced, the death of a child, or certainly Brian wasn't a child, but he was my child. And
Sure.
The old saying is, a parent should never have to bury a child. And it's so difficult to put into words. It's just, it's awful. I mean, literally every single morning I wake up every morning since that day, and you think the first thought in my mind is Brian, and I'm thinking, was this a bad dream? And then a minute later, the reality hits you, and it's just, just everything you see all day long reminds you of him, and it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many good times you had with him. Is there one moment in the wrestling business that you spent with him that you've never forgotten?
Oh gosh, I mean, I can remember tons of wrestling moments with Brian. It's funny. Brian and I, Lauren and I were just talking about this the other day. We had more rather than a. We did have a father and son relationship, but rather than even more than the father and son relationship, we had a wrestling buddy relationship.
I know.
I mean, Brian got into the wrestling business just not long out of high school when and I wasn't really around him. He and Kevin, his brother, grew up with their mom, and so then, I first started seeing him after he graduated and that sort of thing on a regular basis. And then right after that, he got into the wrestling business, and it was almost like we were, we missed the young, childish father and son relationship, and then it became, once we were in the business, it was more like a like wrestlers have with each other.
He was one of the boys.
He became one of the boys.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what it was like.
Yes.
So, I mean, just tons of memories. One of the main things, Brian was a huge Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and he lived every year for the time when football season, and he wasn't so much a baseball or basketball fan, but just really football and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that came about somewhere at an early age, because he and I have talked about this many times, and he denies that it was one of those rebellious moments, where he was going to go against his
you're
dad.
Cleveland Browns.
I've been a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah.
And so we butted heads over the Browns and the Steelers for so many years, and unfortunately, Brian usually had the better season than the Browns, and it was so poignant that the first game of this season was the Browns against the Steelers. And I just, it's all I could think of. But during the whole game, that we would either be watching it together, or we'd be talking on the phone while the game was going on, back and forth, if we weren't in the same city, and about who was going to win, and lo and behold, it turned out to be a tie. Neither team won, and that was almost fitting.
A draw
for that. Yeah,
a draw.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Kevin, your other son. I remember seeing Kevin refereeing. What's he doing these days?
Well, Kevin has owned a carpet cleaning business in Memphis for over 15 years, and he does really well with that. He does mostly commercial cleaning on restaurants and different businesses and things like that. So he usually works nights, when the stores or whatever restaurants are closed. So he has a kind of weird hours. But he also, he promotes wrestling. He's the owner of Wildfire Wrestling, Memphis Wildfire Wrestling. Matter of fact, he just promoted a show at Handy Park down on Beale Street 2 weeks ago, and we got another one coming up in week after next.
I didn't know about this.
It's on the 27th. Yeah. Well, he's promoted wrestling for years and years. He refereed some for us. He even wrestled. Believe it or not, Kurt Angle's first match. The first match that Kurt Angle had in Memphis, Tennessee, when the WWE sent him down, they signed him and sent him to Memphis to start working there and get a little experience in. First match he ever had on Memphis TV was against my son Kevin.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Hey, you can't call him Wildfire unless I'm the champion.
Right.
My little Tommy
Rich.
Yeah.
Jerry, I just wanted to share real briefly about Brian. I had never had the opportunity to meet him, but I was a huge fan of his. And actually, my friends and I, we went in high school on Halloween as Too Cool and Rikishi.
Oh, wow.
I was actually Scotty Too Hottie, but my friend Andrew was Grandmaster Sexay. But one of the things, as our listeners know, I spent a cup of coffee as a wrestler myself. Brian was one of the guys that I had kind of, when I was growing up, looked at, because I'm only 5'8". I used to watch and just say, okay, like, all right, yeah, I get I'm not going to be Hulk Hogan, but I was like, okay, hey, I could be like that. And I tried to copy some of his mannerisms. I even, one of the first times I was in the ring, tried his leg drop off the top rope. It was terrible. I did a horrible job. So I just wanted, to be able to express my condolences on it and just say that, he brought a lot of happiness to a lot of fans.
So we want to back up now, back to the magazine days. When we first were doing the magazines and you and I got to know each other and all that, there were other people who claimed to be the king of wrestling. There was Ernie Ladd, there was Bobby Shane, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Jerry became Jerry the King Lawler. So can you clear this up? Who came first?
Well,
wasn't it Bobby Shane?
No, well, yes, Bobby Shane came before me, and I think Ernie Ladd came before Bobby Shane. I'm not really sure about that, but I saw somebody. I just did the Philadelphia Comic Con this past weekend.
I was there with you. I saw you there.
Yes, exactly. Some fan brought one of the early magazines in that it had a bunch of the drawings that I had done. I think it was from 1971, and I mean, I was literally just barely getting in the business. I had my first match in December, I think, of 1970. And so in 71, I was still, maybe just having a match here or there and trying to get my foot in the door with Nick Goulas. And of course, Jackie Fargo was helping me along the way there. But it was funny because I was just a little side note. It had a couple of pages. And Bill, I don't remember if this was one of your magazines or not at the time.
I don't think it was back then. Back in the early 70s, no.
I don't think that one was either. But anyway, it had just a real young picture of me, and then several of the drawings that I drew that really was the way I got into the business, by drawing these pictures and sending them to the TV station that aired wrestling. Lance Russell saw my pictures, showed them on TV, and showed them to Jackie Fargo. And then Fargo got in touch with me and had me come over. He wanted me to mainly just do some artwork for him. And then he and I became friends. And that's how I sort of, that's how one thing led to another. And that's how I got into the business as a wrestler, or as an artist turned wrestler. But then this particular magazine had the little 2-page story on me on the inside, but on the cover was Bobby Shane. And this was in 71. And at that time, that wasn't the gimmick. He didn't have a crown. He had a nice looking valet with him.
Sherry.
But he was just, Sherry, exactly. And, but he wasn't doing the King gimmick yet. All I remember though is, now I'm the worst on remembering years or whatever, but it seems like it was around 75 or 74 or something like that. I went down to Atlanta. Jerry Jarrett was helping Jim Barnett book the Atlanta territory. And so what they were doing, they were running shows on Friday. Jerry would send down some video of me that they would use on their TV. And then I would fly down on Friday and make, I remember back then we were wrestling at the Omni, I believe. And so I would wrestle there on Friday night, then catch an early flight back to Memphis and be back in Memphis for TV that started at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, which was a live 90-minute show. And so the way it all happened, I was working on top with Jackie Fargo, my mentor. It came down to finally, he and this was a kid that he had helped get started in the business, and now I'm up there trying to take his throne away from him. And that's exactly what I did. I went on TV one week and I said, and I don't even know why, just out of the clear blue, just trying to make some colorful speech. I said, Fargo, you've been the king of Memphis wrestling for a long time, but you're looking at the kid that's going to knock you right off your throne. And, I didn't even know what I was thinking when I said that, but I just kind of colorful speech. Then anyway, that Monday night I went on and I won the match. And as I was going back to the dressing room, some young fans that were like heel fans were slapping me on the back and said, "Hey, you're the king now, right?" Oh. So I didn't even think anything about it, but I get back. And then that Friday night, I go down to Atlanta, and into the locker room comes Bobby Shane, first time I'd ever met him. And he has this big, pretty robe and this, kingly robe, red and with all the fur on it and everything, and he's got this big red crown, right? And he's wrestling as King Bobby Shane. And as soon as I met him and as soon as I saw that, I said, "Oh my gosh, Bobby, can you tell me where you got the crown and the robe and everything?" And then I explained to him the story that had happened last week up in Memphis. And I said, "Man, if I were to show up on TV in a week or so with this crown and robe, they would go nuts, right?" And so I'll never forget, he told me the place. It was called Southern Importers. It was Southern Importers out of Houston, Texas, is where he ordered the crown from. And but then he went on to tell me, he said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm actually leaving tomorrow. Barnett's booking some tour of Australia." And he said, "I'm going over to Australia for Jim Barnett." And he said, "I'm not going as the king." He said, "I'm just going as Bobby Shane." And he said, I really was looking to not have to drag this stuff with me, on the plane and everything. So if you want to, you could take the crown and the robe with you, wear it on TV in the morning. And when I get back I think you're going to be gone like a month or so. And he said, when I get back, I'll get the crown and thing back. By that time, you will have ordered yourself one from Houston, right? So that's how that worked out. He loaned me the crown. I showed up the next morning with the crown on and the robe, and that was the beginning of Jerry the King Lawler. and it was actually Bobby Shane's crown. And then, the sad part of the story is a month later, when Bobby got back for the tour of Australia, he was back down in Florida, and he got killed in a plane crash.
Yeah, I remember that. How
So
sad.
I was left with the crown and the robe, and never got a chance to return it.
Do you still have the crown?
No, I you know what? I have no idea what exactly happened. The crowns do not travel well. They're pretty fragile, and on these, on the trips over the years, I've gone through probably 200 or 300 crowns. And I'll never forget one time I had a brand new crown, and I was wrestling in Owensboro, Kentucky, Christine Jarrett's town, and I went out to the ring with Black Bart. You remember Black Bart?
Of course I do. Yeah.
Big old Black Bart, who was new in the territory, and I don't know where he had come from, but he didn't know the ways. He especially didn't know how you conducted yourself in one of Christine Jarrett's towns. We got in the ring, and I'm standing across from him, and I got this new crown under my arm, and they announced me, and I handed the crown to the referee to put it over to the timekeeper's table. Black Bart grabs the crown out of his hand, sits it down on the floor, and just stomps on it with both feet, smashed it flatter than a flitter.
Yep.
I was in shock. I couldn't believe it, right? And then he grabs the microphone and he says, Lawler, I'm gonna rip your head off and shit down your neck. And I went, oh, I don't know if you could say that on TV. I mean, on your podcast.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
You
but
can.
bleep it out, okay?
No,
But anyway,
say
he
that.
screamed that on the microphone, and I was in shock. But I don't know if I was more in shock because of what he said on Christine's microphone, or that he just smashed my crown to bits, right? But anyway, I looked up, and man, here comes Christine Jarrett running. I mean, not walk. She was running to the ring, and she told him, "Get out of my ring! Get out of my ring, and get out of this town!" It was crazy, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
But anyway, crowns, just different things would happen to them all the time. They just didn't last long.
So I'd actually wanted to ask you about the crowns, because I always considered the crowns that you've had for the majority of your WWE run almost like your casual crown, the kind of flat top.
Well, those were the ones. Those were the ones that wore the best. The big, tall ones.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't. They never were made. I don't know. The people that made them down in Houston, Texas, they never made them quite big enough. They just would barely sit on top of your head, where they really didn't look right. Wearing them. So I would always just kind of hold those. A couple of times I would wear them,
Right.
but mostly I would just hold them. And then I would get the flat ones. I had one really made out at a movie prop place in Hollywood, California. That was one of the best ones. I still have it to this day. That just would wear perfectly, but it had the more of the flat top to it. It's crazy. One time I went to Hollywood, California, with a guy named Larry Burton, who was Larry. Larry. Well, he's no longer with us, but anyway, Larry took me out to California one time. He was big friends with all the people at movies, and the taxi crew, and Andy Kaufman. As a matter of fact, Larry had shot all of the footage that Andy Kaufman sent to Memphis. If you remember the scene where he's wrestled some girl out in front of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually Larry Burton shot that with his own little home video in front of his own swimming pool. But anyway, Larry took me to the Disney studios out there. I was a huge Disney fan. And so Walt had already passed away, but his brother Roy Disney's office, he took me up by Roy Disney's office, and he took me into Mitch. What was Mitch's last name? Oh gosh. Anyway, he was like one of the general managers of the studio, and his office was just full of every kind of Disney memorabilia. It was like walking into a museum. I was so impressed with this thing, right? And so anyway, on this trip, I had to wrestle in a couple of days out there, and I had gone from Memphis and forgot my crown, right? And so Larry tells me, Larry was a good friend of Mitch, and he says, "Mitch, this idiot comes all the way out here to wrestle, and he forgot his crown." He said, somewhere in the Disney studios, you guys got to have a prop crown, don't you?" And Mitch says, "Yeah, let me get on a phone here." So he gets on a phone, And he makes a call. As you can tell, Lawrence getting in the car here, if you could hear that noise. Anyway, he makes a call, and in like 2 or 3 minutes, in walks this young intern, and he's got this beautiful green crown, right? And I thought, where did this come from? And he said, this was used in a movie that I had seen when I was just a little kid called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. You ever remember a Disney movie like that? It was about leprechauns or whatever. You can look it up, Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And anyway, and I had actually seen that as a kid, and I said, oh my gosh, no, I can't take this to a wrestling match. Something will happen to it or whatever, But anyway, I wound up using that crown. I mean, I've just got all sorts of stories of crowns from over the years,
So I wanted to circle around back to you becoming the king. A couple weeks ago, we had a different king on our show, star maker Kenny Bolin.
Yes.
Who suggested that you actually became the king after overhearing him being called the king, I believe the king of 7th grade kickball, if I'm correct. So,
the king of 7th grade. That's what I was going to say. I was the king when he was probably in diapers.
Right. So I just wanted to see if we could confirm or deny that story from the Star Maker.
Yeah. I will tell you that Kenny Bolin has. He's made a living trying to emulate my career, and he's just he's not been a very credible king. I don't know if Kenny. I think I had him in the ring. I think I just saw a picture not long ago of him laying flat on his back at an OVW show where he tried to wrestle. And I do know that I think I tried to pile drive him, and it was like trying to pick up Haystacks Calhoun. It was just impossible. Or one of the McGuire twins, right?
Oh man!
And so I remember them. So I want to circle around to. We're just jumping all over the place here, but
let's
so
jump.
One thing I was surprised at. And I never talked to you about this. Everybody associates you and I together with the whole Andy Kaufman thing.
And they should as well. They should. I never say anything about Andy Kaufman without crediting you, Bill.
I know, and I really
you
know how much I appreciate that.
Never happened without you.
You know how much I appreciate that, and it's bonded us for life, obviously. But there's one thing that I never understood. And, we did this whole great thing at StarCast, and it's gotten great reviews. But there's one question I never asked you about the whole Andy Kaufman thing. When did you decide to come out and say this was a work, so to say? Because I had thought for the rest of our lives we were just going to, nope, that was real.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even remember when it was myself. I think I'm sure it was after Bob Zamuda, was Andy's big buddy. It was after Bob Zamuda had come out with the book and explaining what all he knew about it. And David Letterman came out with his book saying that Andy had, but I still don't believe this, that Andy had confided in him that that what we did on his show was basically a work. But I don't believe that he did, because I don't buy that at all, because it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a work. I mean, Andy and I never got together and said, hey, when we go on the show, I'm going to slap you, and this will be the biggest thing that ever happened. That was never said. We went on the show with the premise of being on there for 2 segments. During the first segment, we were going to argue a little bit. Dave was going to take a break. Then during the second segment, Andy was going to apologize to me for making fun of wrestling, and I was supposed to apologize to Andy for hurting his neck. And he was going to get up. Andy was going to sing "What the World Needs Now Is Love, Sweet Love."
Right.
So that's what the Letterman people, the segment producer Bob Morton, and all those people thought was going to happen, and that's what I thought was going to happen. And then as one thing led to another, that was the great thing about Andy, and I guess that went back to his improv days from Hollywood or ever. I mean, that was what he was so good at, improvisational stuff, his skills. And he would deny, and he hated being called a comedian. He said, I've never told a joke in my life. I'm not a comedian. I'm a performance artist. And so everything that it was almost like everything that Andy did, he was performing. So you never knew, you never knew what was real and what wasn't real with Andy.
No, he wanted to rile the audience up. He was a heel performer.
And you know what? That came from him being a wrestling fan as a kid. He told me one time, he said, man, I used to watch Nature Boy Buddy Rogers was his favorite.
Yes.
And he said, I used to watch him on TV, and he said, I could tell. He said, even as a kid, I could tell that this guy was trying to make people hate him, but yet he was still popular. And he said that somehow had an impact on me, and that's the way Andy's career was. He hated doing Taxi. He hated sitcoms. He didn't like the Latka character, and like you said, he enjoyed getting a negative response from his audience more so than laughter or claps or anything like that, or applause. He loved it when people booed him. And that's why he started doing the wrestling with women thing, because people would just absolutely come out and boo the guy, and he loved it.
One thing you probably don't know, and I just remember this now when we're talking about this, something always new comes out of this, is that I called Buddy Rogers, and he said, you know the guy Latka from Taxi? You really know him? And I said, yeah. I said, he's a friend of mine. I'm hooking him up with Jerry Lawler and all this. And I got permission for Andy to call him. And Andy said that was like one of the best days of his life when he talked to Buddy Rogers.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah, Rogers was working as a greeter at the Playboy Club at that point in Atlantic City.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
well, did Andy ever get to go by there?
He did. I don't know if he got.
I can just imagine that would have been right down Andy's alley to go to the Playboy Club and meet Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. That
I don't know if he got there.
Life.
I don't know if he got there, but I do know he did meet him. So on another off subject.
Yeah, and let me tell you this. Speaking of the highlights of his life, I tell people all the time when like somebody brought one up to me to sign in Philadelphia the other day, the twin pack of action figures where it has me and Andy in the action figures. Yeah. I tell everybody that would have been the highlight of Andy's life, to know that he would someday be an actual wrestling action figure. He would have loved that.
I need to get where can you find that?
Well, you get them on Amazon now.
Do you know what company puts that out?
Yeah, it wasn't. I think Jax was like the first ones. I don't know if it was Mattel or
Josh is looking it up while we're talking here.
Yeah.
So on another totally unrelated topic, and this again is a total unrelated interview here. And hello, Lauren, if she can hear this.
It was Jax.
It was Jax.
Oh, it was Jax? Okay.
The classic superstars.
Yeah, I've got to get one of those. Yeah. Keep that up there.
I'll send it to you.
So one of the other things that you and I have talked about, and we'll get to the horror movies, but you've always had this obsession with collecting Coca-Cola merchandise. How did that start?
Well, I was a big fan of an artist by the name of Haddon Sunbloom. And I mean, that goes back to my childhood. I was a fan of his artwork. He was the artist, and he worked for Coca-Cola in doing all sorts of their advertising art, beautiful paintings of girls and people drinking Coca-Colas and all of that sort of stuff in all of the early ads. But he was the most famous for the Coca-Cola Santa. He was the artist. Haddon Sunbloom was the artist that painted all the Coca-Cola Santa Clauses. And he would paint a different Santa picture every single year for Coca-Cola. And, he must have done 50 or 60 of them. And so I was just a huge fan of his artwork. And speaking of that, I was in Philadelphia the very first time that I actually saw a calendar that was in this antique store. I'm walking by, and this old antique store had this beautiful, it looked like it was from the day, like it was brand new, but it was from the page it was open to was November 29th, 1949. And that was my birthday. That was the day I was born and everything. And here's this beautiful Coca-Cola calendar. And I had to go in, and I think it was like $65 or something like that. But anyway, I bought this calendar. It was already framed. I brought it home. And that was my first start of any kind of Coca-Cola collecting. Not long after that, I had a friend, Eddie Bond, who was a singer on Memphis TV that was partnered with Jackie Fargo. Eddie Bond calls me up. He says, "Man, down at Blackie's Body Shop on Union Avenue," he said, they've got some stuff that they're clearing out. They're going to renovate the place. And he said, they've got an old Coke machine that has been down there since 1950. And he said, if you want to get this Coke machine, he said, I think I can get them to sell it to you for a couple $100. So sure enough, I got this. Actually, the Coke machine was from 1949. It was old. It was made out of an old Westinghouse. It was right after the war, and there was this metal shortage, so they were making Coke machines out of refrigerators. It was an old Westinghouse refrigerator that they would put a drum inside that turned around and with the crank, and so then I bought that, and then it was on. It was just like, oh my gosh! Next thing you know, back about 9 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, I had to move out of my house that you came to down in Walnut Grove, the one where me and Andy filmed some of his great interviews and everything. I had to move from that house into a bigger house simply because of my collection of Coca-Cola and all sorts of memorabilia that I have.
Your old buddy Rodney Dangerfield, you say, hey, I hate antique shops. I almost got killed in an antique shop once. I walked in, I asked him what's new. Anyway, but
well, I don't like antique shops anymore either, because I walked in one the other day and 3 people bid on me.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about your time in WWE.
What do you mean my time? Like my time is over? I'm still there. Look, I'm just waiting for the call. They just called me the other day. I got to be on SmackDown 1000 coming up in October.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure about the. They just announced the second Saudi Arabia trip.
Yes,
that I was on last year.
Take that flight again?
Yeah, man. I don't know. That was tough. I'm telling you, that was tough.
Since you brought that up, what were your thoughts on that? There have been a lot of people have gone back and forth about the Saudi Arabia shows and whether or not it's appropriate for them to be doing this because the women are not allowed to be there and and just the way that the culture is there. What are your feelings on WWE?
Oh, I started to say, what do you mean the women were not? I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
The WWE women were not allowed to be on the show or on the tour.
Right.
Well, you know what? I mean, I still think I think it was good in the fact that it is helping bring about change. I think that eventually, if we keep going, that the women will be allowed to go there. Because I really thought that I didn't think that there were actually going to be even women allowed at the show. But oh my gosh, I was so surprised and so shocked at how it's almost they want to be so westernized. They want to be like we are. Mm-hmm. But I think it's this deep-seated religious leaders that are still somehow in power, but I think it's as time goes on, I think that's going to change, and because I was shocked that I mean there were so many families there, women, beautiful. I mean some beautiful women too there, and some of them would have on the I think they're called burqas or whatever, where you could just see. Some of them it ran the whole gamut. There were women there with the complete burqas. There were women there that just had that didn't have their face covered, and then there were women there that just were just dressed like anybody out of here in Florida or whatever. Just dressed normal with the kids and their husbands and all this sort of stuff. So it's really I think it's a great thing that we get to go and I really think it helps bring about change. And while I was over there, just in the short time that I was there, I saw things on television that the women. I mean, it has been weird over there where the women weren't even allowed to drive or a lot of things,
Right,
but it's all changing now. I mean, it really is changing, and I would think that the time will come when the WWE women will be allowed to go there.
Yeah, I do too. Women drivers, is that another? No, go right ahead.
So
oh, come on, watch out now, Bill.
So going back now to, I guess we'll say the beginning of your time in the WWE, which is still, of course, continuing. What were your expectations when you went there originally? Because obviously you're known as one of the greatest color commentators of all time. When you came into the WWF at the time, was that something that you were expecting to be doing color commentary? Were you expecting to be wrestling?
Oh, no, not at all. I never ever dreamed. I mean, to me, color commentary was, wrestling commentary. All I'd known my whole life was Lance Russell and Dave Brown.
Right.
And they were the two best ever. Even though I admired them so much, I never wanted to be a commentator, never wanted to be a wrestling announcer at all. I didn't even think about that. I just, I knew that they were an integral part of the show, but I never even thought about that side of it. I was always just into the wrestling end of it. Mm-hmm. And the same way in 93, when I first went to the WWE, that's the same way it was there. I started out wrestling against Bret Hart and all these different guys. And it wasn't until, I don't know, gosh, I can't even remember what exactly. I'd have to look back at exactly what year and when it all started. But it was during the time of the Monday Night Wars. And when I was up there doing the wrestling at that time, Vince McMahon was doing the play-by-play, and I think Randy Savage was one of the color commentators.
Yes.
And so, I mean, to me, Vince is like one of the most underrated wrestling commentators. I loved working with him. He's the best. I mean, he's the best. Yeah. He really is. But anyway, they were doing the commentary, and I started out working, with Bret Hart, and I wrestled. I had the program against Ultimate Warrior, Jake Snake Roberts, and all these guys. And then all of a sudden, during the Monday Night Wars, I don't even know how exactly it came about, but the WCW show came on an hour before Raw did, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget. I think we were somewhere up in like the Pocono Mountains or somewhere. We're getting ready to do Raw, and Vince was walking around saying, "Anybody seen Randy? Where's Randy? I need to get with him on something we're going to do on the show tonight." And nobody could find him. And all of a sudden, an hour before Raw, somebody said, "Oh, Vince, turn on the TV." And he turns on to WCW, and there's Randy Savage out on their show. He left without notice. He didn't tell anybody, and he just showed up on their show. And the greatest thing ever, I'll never forget, Vince McMahon. He's a great non-seller. I mean, he didn't put it over a bit. He did it like it didn't even faze him. He just looked at it, and all of a sudden he looked up, and I just happened to be standing there, and he said, "King, can you do the color commentary with me tonight? And by next week I'll find somebody else to do it, on a regular basis. But can you help me out and do it tonight?" And I said, "Sure." And then I had no idea what I was going to do or whatever. But anyway, he told me, and he said, "Next week I'll have somebody else to do it on a regular basis." And of course, that was like 25 or 26 years ago, and I was doing it ever since. Wow.
So the thing, because I'm trying to think about, and I don't mean this to sound like I'm questioning your story, but with Macho Man, because I remember, I've heard Bruce Pritchard tell the story about how he found out from Vince, and I'm trying to think of, I could have sworn that I've seen you do commentary before Macho Man even left. I thought you were doing some of like the Superstars shows or something.
Well, know what? I did. It wasn't commentary. What they had me do some of, because they did like, they liked my interview skills, I guess, basically. It was, remember they had me do some King's Courts?
Yes.
Right.
And on the Superstar show, never forget, that's where I got introduced. Oh gosh, Bobby Heenan brought me out on the very first time they'd seen me, and and introduced me as like whatever, and then that's where a lot of the talking. But I don't think I'd actually done commentary until after Vince asked me to do it there with him on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, it's funny because
I don't. You know what? I may be wrong. I may just have made up that whole story somewhere in my mind.
It's very hard to keep the order of what you did so long ago.
And that's the thing for me. Like growing up watching some of the stuff as a fan, sometimes the fans will have, and we found this just talking, any of the wrestlers that I've spoken to, the fans will have this like encyclopedia like knowledge of every single thing they did because they're watching it for entertainment, whereas the performers, it's just another day at the office.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of tough to expect every wrestler to remember.
Now
everything.
I do. You know what? Now that you mentioned, I do remember them having me. I think I actually was on a show where Vince was doing the play-by-play and Randy was doing the color commentary. Mm-hmm. And I think I was out there just as like a a guest. You know how they
Right.
bring somebody out, a wrestler, and let them do commentary.
Oh, yeah.
Let them during the thing like that. I think I do remember doing that. I think I do remember doing a show with Randy before he left.
Well, the beautiful thing with the internet is that if any of us on here are wrong, somebody will attack us on Twitter.
Well,
for
you know
it,
what?
so-
I always thought you'd be a natural for that because I always remember talking to you back when you had that Jerry Lawler book of insults, that great book,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
still have it. And I always thought if you were ever a color commentary, boy, that would be a great live action version of that book. Do you still have copies of that, by the way?
I honest to goodness, Bill, I have one faded copy of that book, one faded copy left from the original. I didn't have a bunch of them made anyway. I mean, that was literally like a home deal with a copy machine and stapled it down the middle and that sort of stuff. But I do have one copy left, and there's still some lines in there that are applicable today to anybody.
What?
I've had the idea that I wanted to get with the WWE people and put out a book of insults, basically a book of insults that I used on the different wrestlers over the years in the WWE, and then and complete it with like some caricatures and some drawings of the wrestler. But we haven't done that yet.
Have you ever done or considered doing stand-up?
Oh no, I've not ever.
No.
You know, that's surprising.
I think the Bruce Pritchard roast was as close to that as I've come, and I was very uneasy and not.
No, you know what? First of all, everybody was surprised that you did that, but now with changing that word, you got to tell that story.
You know who was the most surprised? Bruce.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, everybody.
It was just an old story, and it wasn't anything truer than that. And he had no idea. When I went over and hugged him afterwards, he said, "I had no idea where you were going with that." I know, I didn't either.
You got to tell that joke and just change the word to that thing you do with the screwdriver. Would you tell that story?
He can use whatever word on here.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, here's what happened. It was like I was up there and I said, when I first met Bruce in '93 when I started in the WWE, and I remember that Bruce would kind of make fun of Jerry Jarrett and I and our promotion down in Memphis because we ran some shows and sometimes they didn't always draw well. The guys didn't make a lot of money down there a lot. That was kind of the word, and Bruce would say some stuff about that, right? And so but then I also recall that after Bruce got let go from the WWE, I remember that Bruce tried his hand at promoting a wrestling show, and he actually had me in there to work on the main event one night. And as sometimes would happen to me and Jarrett, it was like he had a bad crowd, right? And he was so embarrassed that the crowd was that bad that he left the show early, and he left his wife in charge of paying off everybody, once the money was counted. And Bruce, I guess, was going to be so embarrassed that he didn't want to face the boys afterwards with what was going to be a bad payoff, right? So anyway, Bruce left early, and then the show was over, and all the boys were sitting around waiting to get paid, and Bruce's wife came out and said, the two guys that were on the first match, could you come in the office here? So the two guys go in the office, and next thing you know, we hear these noises. I mean, it's like, unmistakable noises. There's some moaning and groaning, and I said, you could tell that somebody's having sex in there, right? And so it's like, oh my gosh! And sure enough, the door opens, and the two guys that were on the first match come out, and one guy's zipping his pants up, and the other guy's all sweating profusely. Their hair's all messed up, and they could go out the door. And she says, "Second match, come on in." And so the guys on the second match go in, same thing, all these noises, this moaning and groaning, obviously sex happening in the room. These two guys open the door, they come out, they can barely walk, they're staggering out of there, and the big smiles on their faces. And then she looks and says, main event guys, can you come in? So me and the other guy go in, and I'm all, I start to take my shirt off and everything. She reaches over and she hands me $100 bill, and she hands the other guy a $100 bill. And I said, well, what is this? And she said, I don't know, Bruce left me in charge, and he told me to give the main event guys $100 each and screw the rest of the guys.
Yeah, that
One of my favorite jokes.
I don't think I'd ever seen Bill laugh as hard as he laughed when you did that up on stage.
It was so good. So again, jumping around, one of the things that you and I always talk about, of course, is he's got no face. Our favorite character from The Invisible Man. You have been a horror movie fan for as long as I've been a horror movie fan. What was the first one you saw that really drew you into that genre? Because like mine was The Invisible Man.
Well, I can't remember which one I saw first. I believe maybe Wolfman or whatever. But anyway, all the Universal monsters, especially Frankenstein and the Wolfman and the Mummy, the ones, the Boris Karloff and those guys. I was just a huge fan of those characters and those movies. And I'll never forget that one time, and this is a story I haven't told a lot of people, but anyway, Halloween was always mine and my brother's favorite time of the year because my mom was kind of strict, and it wasn't one of those things. When it got dark, you had to come inside, and you didn't go out by yourself at night or anything like that, except on Halloween. That was the one night of the year, you got kind of turned loose, and you got to go out and go to all around the neighborhoods. And of course, this was at a time, when I was a kid, it was perfectly safe to go out and trick or treat and all that sort of stuff. And so me and my brother were getting ready to go out for Halloween. And we had two boys that lived next door to us, Chucky and Jimmy Teeter. My brother's name was Larry. So it was Larry and Jerry. And then Chucky and Jimmy Teeters lived next door to us. And they were the same age as my brother and I. And so we didn't have a whole lot of money as a kid growing up or anything like that. And our costumes back in the day were like Charlie Brown. Remember the Charlie Brown comics?
Yes,
the Great Pumpkin, where they your parents would put a sheet over your head and cut two eye holes in it. Well, that was all we could afford for a costume. And my brother and I, this one night, we're getting ready to go out trick-or-treating. And so we had a little something extra that year. We had the sheet on us, and then we got to buy these, I'll never forget, they were 15-cent little rubber mask with the rubber band that went around the back. And my brother's was kind of a scary-looking devil, and mine was like a little Porky Pig face, right? And so here we are getting ready to go out, and I'm kind of all embarrassed with this mask that I got on. And then in comes our next door neighbors who were going to go out trick-or-treating with us. And their parents had gone out and gotten them this fancy, real scary looking, full costume with a big mask. Both of them had these big devilish looking masks and monster looking masks. And so we had this picture made. And it's actually in my book, I believe. The picture is actually in my book of us standing there. And I'll never forget how embarrassed I was with this little cheap mask and everything. So then I guess sort of like the Andy Kaufman, how the heel wrestlers made an impact on him. That made such an impact on me that later on in life, as I got older and I saw in these magazines, I saw these Don Post horror masks. I would get these magazines that had in the
Famous
back of them.
Monsters of Filmland.
Famous Monsters, yes.
I collected
magazine.
them. Yeah.
Okay, and so I did too. So in the back of those were these Don Post masks, and it was something about those masks, and I related it back to the day when I couldn't afford anything but this little, 15-cent mask. So I started buying all of those masks, and I became a huge fan of, and of course it was because of the Universal monster movies that I was a fan of. That first one I bought was Frankenstein, and then of course the Mummy and the Werewolf and Wolfman and all this kind of stuff. And then later on, I incorporated all of those masks into the wrestling business. Once
Right.
Jerry and I owned the territory,
you were the
and
first.
I started booking.
I remember that.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, that was just something. Dr. Frank. We had Dr. Frank, and we had the Mummy. And all of these monsters, I brought them in and used them in the territory.
Well, that was the line that I used to Andy Kaufman back in my apartment. I said to him, that promotion's way ahead of time. They've got the Frankenstein monster there, the Mummy. I said, they're doing 7. Really? You know, oh wow! So we're going to get to some fan questions.
Okay.
Here
Yeah.
that some of the
Now
fans-
Lauren's in the car right now, and I'm getting the evil eye.
Uh-oh.
This is going long. This is going longer than one of my podcasts. Look, Lauren just said, "Hey, don't put that on me." She's not really giving me the evil eye.
Hey, I have a question for you about Lauren. How does she feel about horror movies?
How do you feel about horror movies? Lauren, you're not a real big fan of horror movies, are you?
Well, that's why I asked, because my wife is not a fan, and I'm like you. I'm a huge fan of it.
She says she kind of enjoys them, and she might have nightmares. I'll tell you a quick story, and hang on a second. I'm going to put. Can you hear me okay on speakerphone?
Yeah.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Bill.
It's Josh and Bill.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, no.
Anyway,
no
listen.
problem.
And now, I loved all the Universal monster movies, but I was it's like you, Bill. I was always been a huge horror movie fan. I loved, Friday the 13th, which we had him wrestle. Tommy Gilbert was Freddy, and then we loved, Nightmare on Elm Street was Freddy, and House on Haunted Hill was another one of my old favorites.
Vincent
But
Price.
we used all of these different monsters, but without a doubt, the scariest movie that affected me more than any scary movie ever. Lord, just said, "Oh God!" Let me ask you guys: is there one horror movie that stands out over all the rest as being the scariest movie you ever saw?
Yeah, mine was really dumb. I was a little kid, and there was some movie with a bear dressed in a robot suit. It was like I, Robot or something. I scared the hell out of me.
You know what a lot of people say that as kids was a really scary movie to them was The Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah, my sister was terrified of that.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll
and they
get
would
you,
show
my
that in
pretty.
right.
that.
But okay, what about you, Josh? What's the scariest movie you ever saw?
Oh, for me, it would have been one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies when I was growing up. Which now I remember I watched it as an adult, and it was like really campy. But as a kid, then it's like you're going to sleep and you're thinking, well, how am I gonna? Maybe I shouldn't go to sleep. Maybe this Freddy Krueger thing is real. So that was my scariest.
All right, let me tell you. For me, the scariest movie that affected me for a long time was The Exorcist.
Oh yes,
yeah.
of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Scary, man. That was so scary. And so not all that long ago, Lauren and I are going at a Comic-Con. Do you remember where it was, Lauren?
I believe it was Seattle.
Okay, so we're at a Comic-Con in Seattle, and I look on the bill, and who do you think is appearing there but Linda Blair?
Oh man.
Oh my God. It was like the greatest thing ever to go and meet Linda Blair, right?
That's
this
crazy.
was the scariest movie I've ever seen, and we're going to meet her in person. So Lauren and I go over, and actually Scotty Schwartz was a good friend.
Yeah.
Scotty from the Christmas Story was a good friend of Linda's, and he had told her about me and us that we wanted to meet her. So she was just, she was kind of, she was, I don't know, kind of expecting to meet us, and she was talking a little bit, but she had been a little bit perturbed that morning. She had a bad experience getting to the Comic-Con or whatever. So she wasn't in the greatest of moods. But Lauren, just tell them real quick of like what was some things she said.
Well, so we went over first, and she was super nice, and I was pretty excited about meeting Linda Blair. To be honest, I had not seen the whole Exorcist movie because I was really scared of it, but she was, so I was pretty excited. So we go over, we talk to her. She kind of takes my arm, and she's like, "I just get a good vibe from you. You're such an old soul. I feel you two together. The age difference. I'm not really feeling that. I just feel like you're such an old soul." And so I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Linda Blair called me an old soul. So later on in the day, Jerry just keeps saying, "Oh my gosh, we met Linda Blair. He's so excited." And so I was like, "Well, we should go get an autograph for the movie room." And he's like, "Yeah, you're right." So we go back over, and as we go over, she's like going off on some guy. And I thought, well, maybe this is not.
Her mood had changed.
Maybe this is not. Well, the guy apparently was the person who brought her in, and they were having a discussion about whatever her money situation was. Which So we caught in the midst of that. So anyway, I look at her and we talk for a second. And I said, well, hey, Linda, she's saying how she's having such a crappy day. And I said, well, they're actually having like a VIP party for, the celebrities. It's a, private party for us later on. Are you going to go? And she's like, cuts her eyes over at me and she's like, do I look like I want to party? Wow. And I was like, okay. And I look at Jerry and he's all giddy just because he's so excited.
Linda Blair.
Yeah, he's like giddy over there. He's giggling and I'm looking at him like, what are you laughing about? Like, so she kind of like leans in and grabs his arm and she's like, he gets me. See, because we're the same age. Oh. Like, insinuating that I'm a young girl and I don't know, blah, blah, blah.
What happened to your soul?
And oh my gosh, I look at her and I look at him and I just walked off. Like, I just left.
Wow.
Man.
So anyway, I stay there another couple minutes and she signs a picture for me and I go back over and Lauren's sitting at our table.
No, you were gone for like 30 minutes.
No, I was
gone forever, and I'm thinking, I look at Mike Kingston, who we, do the shows, but I look at Mike and I'm like, where the hell is he at? Like, why is he still there? I know he knows I was upset about that.
No, I didn't. I swear I did not know she was upset, right? And so anyway, when I finally get back over to the table, Lauren's sitting there, and I swear I didn't realize that she was mad at anything. And I just said, wow, was that not great? We got to meet Linda Blair. And she just looked at me and she said, screw Linda Blair. Except she didn't say screw, right? And I was
like
just
my
like,
favorite F word other than Friday.
I said, oh my gosh,
Free.
I couldn't believe it. But anyway, that was our monster story from the Comic-Con. That was the scariest movie ever.
But that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
So what if we just do like one fan question? Because I know we've kept you on here a long time.
Let's call that fan in right here. Come
in. This comes from Calvin. He wanted to know why you always wore your wrestling gear at the announce table and why you stopped.
Good question, Calvin.
That is a good question, Calvin. That is a very good question. Because, and it's a very simple answer, because like I said, I was wrestling and I went there to be a wrestler and I was thrown into the commentating, just to kind of fill in for somebody, I thought on a short-term basis. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, I still continued to wrestle and do commentary. I mean, sure. So I would get up and wrestle and then come back over and do commentary and that sort of thing. So that was the reason for that. I just somehow in my mind, I didn't want to be known as a commentator. I wanted people to say, hey, here's a wrestler who's just happened to go in over and helping out with the commentary, which is what in my mind I was doing. Yeah, a wrestletator, right? And so anyway, the reason I finally stopped doing that because I realized, that I wasn't they weren't going to book me to wrestle anymore. I wrestled the night I had the cardiac arrest, right? To Dolph Ziggler and those killer elbows of his. I wrestled that night, got up and went up, me and Randy Orton wrestled CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler. Mm-hmm. Dolph gave me 10 of those huge, gigantic elbows. And I remember on the 5th one, I'm laying there thinking, dang, whatever happened to the days we used to do this and not kill each other? And sure enough, he killed me, right? So, 10 minutes later, I'm having a cardiac arrest. So anyway, that was then, and then after that, I've been on basically sort of a no-touch list since that time, even though I've gone out. I haven't had any matches in the WWE, but I probably had, that's been 6 years ago, I've probably had 600 matches since that time.
So you think you don't think they'll ever let you wrestle again in the WWE?
No, and it's just, certainly it's not something that's on their mind at all. Sure. They got plenty of other guys that they're thinking about, and the creative people. No, I don't think they will, but simply because I think they would look at it as a liability, mm-hmm. in the fact that if something were to happen to me, God forbid, but I think they would think that there would be a lot of bad publicity for them by the people that, a lot of the fans said, oh my gosh, I can't believe they've shoved this poor guy out there to wrestle after he already had a cardiac arrest once, right? Even though I've gone to him and said, look, I'm fine. I would love to come back and wrestle some. But I think it's just, they don't want to suffer the consequences of any bad publicity. if
We
anything
notice
happens.
in the Indies you only come out in the night.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Thank you for taking the time.
for doing this. And Lauren, it was great to talk to you again. And I'll see you somewhere soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The great thing about these Comic-Cons, I mean, are you going to be at the New York Comic-Con coming up in just a week or so?
No, I'm not. I will not. Be
Oh
at
my
that
gosh,
one.
you need to start doing the New York Comic-Con. It's huge. The second biggest. San Diego's still the biggest, but it's New York is rivaling it right up there with it.
It's the same company that put on this Keystone one, as far as I know. And they told me I'm already in Chicago next year, but I'll see you before that somewhere.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know that.
Sounds great.
Jerry,
I love you, Bill.
the King Lawler, love you too in a guy way. I always say that.
Right.
I like you, King.
All right. Me too.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
So that was our interview with Jerry the King Lawler, and it was wonderful that the lovely Lauren had joined him.
Yeah, we're definitely between this and I don't know if I mentioned this in the interview or not, but between this interview and Rey Mysterio
And his son.
yeah, we're this ride along thing we've got going on here. It's kind of becoming our gimmick.
We have to come up with another title, not Ride Along.
Ride
'cause
Along? That's kind of taken.
That other big company that's in the sports entertainment business has that. So how about that great era that so many people miss, Josh, and it was so unique and innovative. It was the rock and wrestling era. You remember that?
I do remember that. That was when I was a kid. I remember the cartoons. I remember them being on MTV. The rock and wrestling era was one of my favorites. But you know what's one of my favorite podcasts these days?
Actually, I do know.
Yeah?
It's the Rock and Wrestling Podcast.
Hosted by Nick Newman. The Rock and Wrestling Podcast, The Nick Newman,
Right.
features guests every week from independent wrestling, former wrestling stars, and from the rock and heavy metal world. That's what makes it rock and wrestling. Some of the guests on the show have included Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, Flip Gordon, Conrad Thompson, Jim Florentine, Tony Schiavone, and a guy named Josh Shernoff.
I know him.
Yes. And in the future, a guy named Bill Apter. I have it on good authority that Bill Apter is going to be on the show at some point in the near future. The podcasts are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Buzzsprout. New episodes every Wednesday. You can follow them on social media at Nick SRNW Podcast. That's on Twitter there. Instagram is that's the letter N, Wrestling Podcast. And Facebook, Nick's Rock and Wrestling Podcast. I had a great time being a guest on the show. I've had an even better time listening to his podcast. So make sure to check it out. Bill?
Rock and Wrestling.
Well, there's that. You can use that for free, Nick, if you want to take that soundbite. Rock and Wrestling Podcast, thank you for being one of the sponsors of the After Chat. So as this episode airs October 5th on a Friday, this is the unfortunate anniversary of the death of Brian Pillman 21 years ago today. Brian Pillman was found dead in his hotel room, and it was announced at a WWE pay-per-view that he had died. And obviously his son, Brian Pillman Jr., now a wrestler, and we hope to get an opportunity to speak to him at some point soon on the After Chat, hear about his career. But Bill, can you tell us a little bit about, obviously you knew Brian Pillman very well.
Oh, yes. Brian Pillman was one of those guys, and I know I've mentioned this about a lot of guys, but he was one of the guys who cooperated so much when I was in a territory where he would be to pose for pictures and do interviews. There was nothing he couldn't do. And I was out and socializing with Brian and Stone Cold, before he was Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and a lot of the other guys. And he was always a lot of fun. But that the title that he had, that moniker that people gave him, the loose cannon. Yeah, at some of these clubs we went to, you could see that he liked to party. He enjoyed it. All the guys did, but he never did anything so out of the box that I had seen, at least around me. I just found him a very pleasant, compelling person outside the ring and inside the ring. You know, people know that I always gravitated toward the flying style wrestlers.
Yeah.
Flying Brian Pillman
Flying
was
Brian
one
Pillman.
of the finest.
Yeah, his matches with Jushin Thunder Liger.
Oh, I shot several of those, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He definitely had an innovative style that nowadays, young fans might look at and not appreciate.
They might say everybody did
Yeah,
that.
just what's a big deal? He's
But he
coming
was
off
one-
the top rope.
Yeah,
you know,
but he was one of the trailblazers.
Yeah. That's why he was
He
flying,
definitely
Brian.
was.
I remember I had his Galoob action figure with the Bengals pattern on the tights.
I have it down at Apter's Alley.
Yeah,
But
and,
how unfortunate when we heard that Brian Pillman had died. It was just,
how did you hear?
I was at home, and I think it might have been Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis.
Yeah, who also unfortunately is no
Yeah,
longer
but I
with
think
us.
he was the one who might have called me to tell me that Brian died.
Wow. I remember where I was.
It was either he or Les Thatcher.
Okay.
One of the two.
I was in my basement getting ready to watch In Your House Bad Blood, the first ever Hell in a Cell match. The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels was that night, and it was the pre-show, I believe. And Vince McMahon came on to say the unfortunate news, and I couldn't believe it. And you and I had talked about this before. I think it was, for me, it was really the first time experiencing that, the death of a wrestler. Others had passed away kind of once they were out of the spotlight. And, of course, some of them premature. Kerry Von Erich, Dino Bravo. I remember reading about those in the magazines. Obviously, Andre the Giant. But to have an active wrestler pass away, we unfortunately experienced that as the years would go on. We'd experience that more and more. And, of course, now we become almost numb at times to losing wrestlers.
Isn't that so terrible?
It's awful.
Oh, another one died.
Yeah, and it's never meant as a disrespect to the human being or to their body of work. It's just that it's kind of, you just shrug and just like, another one.
Well,
but this was,
I just want to say that the memories of him, for me, both as a person and an in-ring athlete, remain positively intact.
So we had an opportunity to talk to Jim Cornette recently for a future episode. And I know you're thinking, what, a future episode? We already had him. Yeah, Corny's coming back.
Yeah, he's a two-timer.
But when we knew we would be recording this, and we knew that this would be airing on the anniversary of Brian Pillman's death, and we asked Jim Cornette if he had any memories of Brian Pillman, and would like to play that for you now. It's not, you're kind of cutting in. There's no real beginning or end.
Yeah, but there's something here that he reveals that very few people know.
Yes, take a listen. So Jim Cornette is with us now. Jim, how well did you know Brian Pillman?
God, I met him in '89 when he came into WCW, and knew him, off and on for the rest of his life. But we worked together in Atlanta. We worked together again in the WWF, and we would talk every so often. In the early '90s, I'll admit that I was hopeful that everybody would just lose their minds, and he'd lose all of his jobs and have to work for me in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. But he was always gainfully employed.
Yeah, he was an incredible. He was an all-round wrestler, and the times that he and Steve Austin, before he became Stone Cold, teamed up, they were a classic tag team.
Oh, without doubt, and that's why that just epitomized WCW at that point in time, because I was watching the show when I was booking Smoky Mountain at the same time, and then had joined the WWF, but I was still trying to keep track of what was going on. And literally the only thing that I enjoyed about WCW television was Steve Austin and Brian Pillman, the Hollywood Blondes, and they broke them up shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Jerry Brown and Sir Oliver Humperdinck and Buddy Roberts took their gimmick. So
filed an
copyright.
intellectual property.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
I got you.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in the WWE when Brian Pillman passed away, right?
I was the one that made the phone call to the hotel trying to find him.
Were you
and
really?
got the news first.
So,
from the production office, they had said, hey, everybody had gotten there that day except for Brian, who was late, which it wasn't unusual. He might be late, but this was getting late.
mm-hmm.
And they said, call the hotel he stayed at in Minneapolis last night and see what time he checked out. And so I do, and I asked the desk guy, I said, I'm looking to find out what time a guest from last night checked out, Brian Pillman, and I get this, can you hold on, sir? Okay. And I thought he might be checking, but I think he went from the desk to the back office so he could talk, and he picks the phone up. He said, sir, and he had me identify that I was calling on behalf of his employer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear Mr. Pillman has passed away. And the first thing I thought was, why is Brian Pillman standing behind this desk clerk at the XL Inn in Minneapolis forcing him to tell me that he's dead? It's a rib, right? Because it had to be. And then I said, is this a rib? Expecting Brian to get on the phone. And he said, no, sir, the police are still here. And I was like, okay, I grabbed downtown Bruno. I said, go get Bruce. I'm tagging out of this one. I didn't know what to think.
Bruce Pritchard, yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we found out.
So were you the one, or you said you brought Bruce onto the phone there? Were you didn't have to go around and tell everybody, did you?
Not me, no.
Okay.
Not I, said Jim.
Well, Jim, we thank you for taking the time to speak with us and help us to pay tribute to the late flying loose cannon, Brian Pillman. Oh, gosh. You know what? I have to call someone back in.
It's me,
There he
Lou.
is.
You promised I could read a commercial.
Hey, Lou.
All right, and I know that...
Hey, Lou, before we go into this, by the way, I just want to mention to everybody that a good friend of ours of the Apter Chat, Mac Davis, who is also in the wrestling business, is the genius behind this Smart Hold, message on hold.
Yes.
So, Mac Davis, this is for you right now. We're auditioning new announcers for the Smart Hold commercial. Lou, are you ready?
Right, come here, then. Mike. Thank you. Hi, Mike. Your little joke there.
Yeah, there was little.
All right, so I'm going to start reading this. What is Smart Hold? Smart Hold is a message on hold service for only $35 a month. That's right, only $35 a month, plus no contracts.
Lou, Josh, I don't think this is...
Yeah, I didn't have high hopes.
Yeah, actually...
Out of
That
respect
was a
to
great.
tax.
That was a great song. Excellent Frank Sinatra movie.
Thank you very much. Don't call us. We will call you, Lou. And if you call us by mistake, Smart Hold will be there to entertain you. I mean, Smart Hold's a message on hold service, only $35 a month. And Josh, there are no contracts. You don't
that's
get
amazing.
stuck. Yeah. I mean, if you run a business where you place callers on hold, one of your most effective and least expensive marketing tools is message on hold from Mac Davis's Smart Hold. Plainly put, when you place a caller on hold, you know what? You've got a captive audience. They're
Yeah.
right there. Yeah. So replace the radio stations, replace the CD players, and maybe you have some really bad music that came with your phone. Oh, even worse. You know what the worst thing is?
What?
Silence. With today's cell phones, silence is deadly. Most callers won't be sure. If they're still connected, they'll probably hang up. So can you afford to lose that call, Josh?
I couldn't.
I don't think anyone else can. So at Smart Hold, we make your callers' hold time enjoyable and informative while making the caller's hold time feel much shorter. So it also makes you sound a lot more professional. So Smart Hold, call on hold. You can find out more about them at www.smart-hold.com. www.smart-hold.com. Be smart. Get Smart Hold.
And Smart Hold is the proud sponsor of a new segment that we have called DWA, Do we agree?
Do we agree? What's today's topic?
Today's topic for us to debate is scripted promos.
I was in a place backstage probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
Chris Jericho was sitting at a table, and a writer came over and said, I need you to absorb this. They showed a script to Chris Jericho, who is one of the best impromptu interviews in the whole world. Chris, give me 3 minutes on your feud against Jushin Liger. Just whatever would come out of his mouth would be perfect. But that's not what we want you to say. We want you to say what we have in mind. So this isn't an idea. We'd like to hear this almost verbatim. When I saw that, I was like, really? So I don't know what your feelings are, but I think that we need to go back, at least with the guys who have the type of personality, the outgoing personality, that can do a few minutes on their own with the situation. Talk to me about, give us 3 minutes about what you're going to do with your opponent. It's a Texas death match, so take it from there.
Well, I think it's interesting that you made a really good point about saying the guys who can do it. And I should say guys and girls, Bill. Come on,
okay, but not not everybody.
Right,
can do
the
this.
ones who can do it,
Right.
and I think that's internet wrestling fans have had a tendency to blame any negative thing in the WWE on the fact that the promos are scripted. I don't think it's that extreme. I don't think that it's as extreme as just they script the promos, therefore the product can never be as good as this, that, the other. The ones who can pull it off, you don't know if it's scripted, if it's not scripted. Having said
Excellent
that,
point.
I do agree that there are some who can. Look, Paul Heyman is a guy who's given he's given as much rope as he wants, as long as he gets the point across that the writers have come up with. Triple H, I doubt anybody's handing Triple H a script saying you need to learn
It's
this.
not what Stephanie wants him to say.
verbatim.
All right.
A guy like Shawn Michaels, I'm sure they said to Shawn Michaels, hey, here's what we want you to hit. Go out and do it.
It's the old school seasoned guys you're talking about. though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then that raises the question of, okay, yeah, those guys can go out and do that, but those guys can only go out and do that because they went out and did it for so long.
Absolutely. I
So,
agree.
in essence, we're not giving these younger talents, you say the people who can do it. How do we know who can do it? And are we going to look at Shawn Michaels and Triple H and The Undertaker, and we're going to say day one they were as good as they are now? No, they weren't. They've been. It took years of day in, day out cutting these promos.
However, I want to interject with something. I've seen in recent years a wrestler, a performer who might be able to do this on his own without being scripted, going back and forth with one of the writers, just saying, "Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this?" So there is a certain amount. Sometimes, depending who the person is, if
Right.
they could do this, of
Oh,
creativity,
I
where
agree.
it's not written out for them, but in essence, give me this. Well, would it be okay if I said this? So we're back in the old school days. There was no worry. It was give me 3 minutes about the Midnight Express. Okay.
And I think that, you have to look at it as wrestling fans often have a tendency to forget to do. They don't realize what a large business this is. That this is a television powerhouse. And while I've been very critical of the WWE for putting Baron Corbin in the position that they've put him in, because I don't think he's very good, he sounds incredibly rehearsed and like he's just reading off of a.
This is Josh's opinion, by the way.
Yeah, which
Go ahead.
I hold in extremely high regard. But I think objectively speaking, Baron Corbin sounds like he's reciting something verbatim.
All right, so I'm going to get to my bottom line on this, okay? Scripted promos for the guys. There are ways, and maybe they have something for this at the Performance Center. We don't know.
Right.
But scripted promos for the guys who can do this almost verbatim, I think there needs to be a meeting of the minds between the scripted, the writer and the wrestler to marry that together between the wrestler's personality and that. And I think a lot of that goes on and we don't even know about it. But strictly scripted promos, I think, inhibits what the wrestler or performer could actually bring to that situation or feud.
Right. So I wanted to come at it from a different standpoint. As an actor, as an experienced actor, and as somebody who studied acting, I've been in classes. I've been in improv classes.
I've done this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I have been on sets with people and interacted with people who, when they are reading the script, it just sounds so fake. And there have been times when I've seen a director...
Fake or rehearsed?
It sounds fake.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like this is real emotion. It doesn't sound like these are their real words. It sounds like they're just... It sounds like what Baron Corbin sounds like when he's coming out and talking. And I'm not trying to...
But it shouldn't sound like that because like the Stanislavski method of acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances.
Yes.
Okay? So
But
they should be able to take a script if they're a decent actor.
Right. And that's
and
the
do
point
that.
that I'm getting to. I have seen people, I've been in acting classes with people who had been taking the classes years before I got there and were there years after I left and never improved because some people, and I am not saying I'm the world's greatest actor. I mean, I am the IAW TV Best Male Performance in a Comedy nominee for this year. But, at the same time, what I'm saying is, in all seriousness, some people just don't have it. Some people cannot be taught to act. There's something natural within somebody to be able to do that. Now, some people can start out pretty bad and can be taught to become excellent. And somebody like Baron Corbin, again, and I don't mean to be beating up on him.
Why do you keep beating up on Baron Corbin?
Because I'll tell you, I'm not beating up on Baron
You
Corbin.
are.
No,
I say
I'm
you
not.
are.
Okay.
I think you are.
I'm
listening to what you're saying.
Well,
and
then
not
let
just
me-
this
then-
week.
then-
Wait, not
right.
just this week, but last week you were also beating up on Baron Corbin.
Then let me make it painfully clear. I'm not beating up on Baron Corbin. I'm beating up on the people who have put Baron Corbin in this position. And here's why. Baron Corbin is, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is not a very good actor. And I don't mean that as an insult. Baron Corbin is an athlete who got into professional wrestling. He's not somebody who, to my knowledge, ever claimed to be a well-learned actor who'd studied for years and had all this experience. He's been thrown into, on a primetime show on the USA Network, multiple segments over 3 hours where he has to come out there and he has to recite memorized lines that probably have been given to him as recently as maybe a couple minutes before he went out.
I don't think he's that bad, Josh.
Okay.
Okay.
I do. I
Okay,
don't think he
you're
sounds...
entitled to your opinion.
Yes.
We don't agree on that.
Right, and that's, so do we agree? No, not
So
on
this
specific
is
thing.
has turned into, from the original format of this
I'm
was
gonna
going to be
circle back
talking
around.
was going to be talking about scripting the wrestlers to go out there and
Right,
do what's
but
scripted.
I'm getting there. I'm going to my diatribe is
It's
almost
become a Brian
complete.
a Baron Corbin.
No. Here's what I'm trying to say. For everything that I've just gone on
Get
and
to
on and
it.
said here,
Get
I'll
to
get
it.
to my point. How come nobody ever sends any hate mail to you about being disrespectful to me?
Well, I'm not being disrespectful.
Oh, no,
I'm
you're not, but you're
I-
not doing anything differently than I've ever done. But I don't think you're being disrespectful.
Well, because
But if
you're
I said it to you...
my people, and thank you all from the bottom of my heart. My people know my history. That I'm a gentleman.
Yes,
I'm
a scholar.
Yeah, no, I did, but I've always treated this business in a very respectful way, and I guess it bothers me that you or anyone else would say, hey, this guy can't act, or look where he is and look where you are at the moment, okay?
Right.
And that's not disrespectful,
But at the same time, since you're saying, look where he is and look where I am, I'm hosting a podcast and he's out on the USA Network, and I get that. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure he's a guy who should even be hosting a podcast. And that's not knocking him as an in-ring competitor, as a wrestler. But he went in there to be a wrestler, not to be this management personality.
Taz went into the WWE
yes.
to be a wrestler. He
but
wound
Taz,
up as a broadcaster.
But Taz had something. He had that natural ability to speak that Baron Corbin does not have in this
I would
regard.
like the Apter chatters to chime in on this
Yeah.
because we're butting heads, and we've turned this around.
Okay.
So this has become a Baron Corbin segment. So you Apter chatters, and tell them where they can chat at us.
At the Apter Chat on Twitter.
Yeah.
Send us your opinions. But no, I would like to, if I may, I want to make my point here. My point is Baron Corbin is being put in a position. I have worked with people in the past. I've directed people in the past where they need to be, sometimes you need to go to them and say, okay, forget the words. And this is for be it a sitcom or a film where you need to say, don't worry so much about the words. Stop thinking about the words. Think about the intent of the scene. That is what sometimes will get somebody to say, okay, I'm just going to think, I'm going to be in the moment, I'm going to feel this. If you have somebody focus so heavily on the scripting, which is what brings us back to the scripting, sometimes you're not going to get that out of them. Baron Corbin is a guy that over time, yes, he could get better. If he's training, then I applaud him for doing so. I'm not trying to insult Baron Corbin. What I'm saying is it doesn't make any sense
that way.
Well, I don't know how else I can
But
say I'm not trying to insult him.
Scripted promos, you agree or you don't agree?
I don't think that it's as simple as agreeing or not agreeing. I think that there are some people, and this is where I've been trying this whole time to get to with this.
Go ahead.
What I think is that there are some people who are good actors who you would be able to provide them with a script. A good actor, you could give them a script and you could have them go out and say those words verbatim, and fans will sit at home and say, see, that guy didn't have to read from a script. And it's not necessarily true. It's just because that guy was a good actor. And what I've been trying to say about Baron Corbin this whole time is that the guy is not a good actor. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I'm just saying the same way that if he walked into an acting class on day one, they would say, all right, you're not very good. Here's what you need to work on.
Okay, so here is my point, is that I think scripting wrestlers should be dependent upon what the wrestler can do. If you have somebody like The Miz in the ring, this is what we want to talk about. This is what these are the points you need to hit.
Everybody talks about how great The Miz is. We don't know. The Miz might be going off the cuff because he's been given that
He's
leeway.
that good, though.
Or The Miz might be that good of an actor
Right.
that he is going word for word what is in a script, and you don't know.
We don't
know.
know,
And the point
but-
of what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's as simple. Everybody wants to say, oh, they scripted it. I think it's two things. I think it's number one, the talent of the person who is reciting the scripted lines, and number two, it's the people writing the script.
what's he being
I don't
given?
know that it is the script. That's the problem, and that's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it's not. I mean, you watch a bad television show, you can look at that.
watched a lot of
yes, and you can look at that, and the question is, there are only three things that are making it bad. It's the actor, it's the writing,
Or a combination.
or a combination.
Yeah, it could be both.
Yeah.
So
So that's what I'm saying is in this, and nobody watches, you don't think of the best television show, the best performance, best movie. You didn't look at that and say, oh God, this would have been so much better if they would have kept him off a script and let this guy just
had
go with it.
had another guy in there.
Well, no, but but I guess what I'm wondering is if the WWE, they really pride themselves on being entertainment. Right there, that is their. If you ask them, they'll say we're a male soap opera.
Right,
we're
right.
this, we're that. What I'm asking, and this is why I've been, as you say, beating up on Baron Corbin, but unfortunately, I'm using him as an example because he's being put in this position, and I give him loads of credit for going out there and trying his best because he really is. And I wish that they could do something different with him.
I don't think he's that bad. We don't.
Well, that's
we do
fine.
not.
We don't
so-
agree on that, and that's
right.
fine. But what I'm trying to say is, do you know how difficult? Think of a show on the USA Network that is not Raw, okay, or SmackDown. think of any of the USA original series. Suits, okay, is a USA original series.
One of my son's favorite shows.
I love that show. Do you know how, and I don't know that some of the Apter chatters know, some people do and some people don't because they haven't been in the business. Do you know what those actors, for the smallest bit part on that show on one episode, for a day player on one episode, do you know the hoops that they had to jump through to get that part? To be on a show on the USA Network?
Of course, but let's get to your point.
I think I've made my point.
I don't think you have.
Okay, my point is, if you're going to be a television show and you're not going to be old school wrestling and you want to have this be an entertainment show, then be an entertainment show and hire quality actors. Look through your roster and say, who can deliver these lines?
I'm thoroughly confused because, like I said, I don't think Baron Corbin is that bad, and I think you're on a witch hunt.
I'm not. I have nothing against Baron Corbin.
Well, that's what I'm getting.
I don't think that he's being used well. I don't think that this is... I loved him in NXT. I thought he was great, but they have him going out there doing a character that just doesn't suit him. And again, this comes down to it's scripting. Why are they scripting it? Because they think that this is a show, right? They think that this is a television show. So why not cast somebody better for the part? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so
I don't think it's scripting. I don't think scripting is the problem.
We're going back around and around. So do we agree that Baron Corbin does what he does well? You are no? I am yes. I think that's where we're at. Yeah.
And as far as scripting, which is what we were... I feel like we harped too much on Baron Corbin here.
No, you did.
I was trying to use him as one tiny little example, and you feel that I was attacking him.
You did it last week as well.
Because he is a prominent part of the show.
Right, and I don't think he's that bad. So I think we
Would you see him on any other show? On the USA Network, any other scripted television show?
I don't watch a lot of the shows. If he fits the part, yes, of course.
Okay, well then I don't think
he's got a good look. He's got that good, tall, dangerous-looking guy or wise guy type of look. So why not?
I don't see it.
You just don't like Baron Corbin.
I have nothing against Baron Corbin. I've never met the guy.
No, I'm not talking about you meeting him. I'm just talking about what he looks like and what he sounds like.
Okay, I'm just giving an opinion about his character.
Apter chatters, we're at a deadlock here. My feeling is that Josh is attacking Baron Corbin, and I don't think it's justified. Where do they go, Josh?
They go to the Apter chat on Twitter. You can also go to @SoSaysShernoff to tell me if you think I'm attacking Baron Corbin. I think I'm making a valid point here that it isn't about Baron Corbin. That would be like when you see a television show and you see somebody who's a bad actor on a show, I don't attack that actor. I say, why did they cast him? I'm attacking the casting director.
Well, as you would say, we're both entitled to our own opinions, and well, you're right in your mind, and I'm right in my mind.
All right. I guess that
was a good fight. I
So
like that.
And Apter chatters, let us know. Do you like these little debates? We got great feedback on it, except for the people who thought that I was incredibly disrespectful and
which he was not,
and attacked me all over social media.
But it's a "Do we agree" segment, and that came out of your feedback, Josh. We're about at the end of this episode.
Our
I want to
here?
thank but no, really, I want to thank all the Apter chatters and all the new Apter chatters, and for you newbies out there, please go back all the way back to episode 1 and 2 with Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to episode 3 with Sting.
Part 1 of Sting.
Yeah, go back to the Jim Cornette interview. Go back to the Rey Mysterio interview, part 2 of Sting. We have some great stuff you won't hear on any other podcast.
Taz.
But thank you for Taz too, right?
Yeah.
And thank you.
We named everybody else. I didn't want to just leave them out.
We did, but thank you all for being Apter chatters, and you can
we
follow
really
me at
appreciate
bapter at no, actually that's my email address, bapter@onewrestling.com. But you can follow me on Twitter at @Apter1Wrestling.
And you can follow me at @SoSaysShernoff. Please just send me nice stuff every once in a while.
Please do that. I'd appreciate that too. And it's Bookiversary month. My book is Wrestling Fixed.
I didn't know it was broken.
It's still on sale.
Go to theapterchat.com.
Yeah.
Click on the book.
Yes. So Josh,
Bill?
you know what? There's only one anything to say? You know what?
I think I do.
I'll see you.
At the matches.
Yeah, that's a wrap.